So yeah, I actually want to give credit to Wick because he inspired me for this panel this week when I was watching him and Visora have their one-on-one chat, and I was very interesting to me because I had been saying that I thought the reason the Dims lost for a while, a big portion of it was pretty much everything opposite of what she said, which I was like, I think the manipulation was bad. I think that the like acting like too uppity or too like condescending to people and all this was a major issue. It was a big reason why the Dims lost. However, it didn't seem like that was her take, and I wanted to see, and so it inspired me to ask the rest of my not me, but my friends that are lefties here, what they thought the reasoning was, and really dive into it. So I got my friends here together today, and I guess we'll start with Tyler here. Tell us who you are, what you do, and give me your intro and what you think.
Oh, average debate enjoyer. I'm here to debate and fuck, and I ain't got no condoms. I don't know. I just think the Democratic Party's kind of in shambles right now. They're taking the few wins that they have, like Signalgate and certain things of that nature. Garcia, the Maryland man, and all this, and they're running way too far with it. They're turning that dead horse into IKEA meatballs, and pretty much anything else is just the party flailing and the worst people in the party gaining traction. AOC is the top-ranked Democrat right now, and she represents a lot of things that most voters hate. And I got a ton of polling data to show that, so I'm gonna get into all that.
Fantastic, thank you so much, Nina.
Yes, I was really interested to have this conversation because I think right now the Democratic Party is trying to find where its identity, I guess. Like, I think that a lot of ideas are coming out right now, but we're not really together on anything. So we're kind of in a transition zone. I know that's kind of a boring answer, but that's why I'm excited to have a conversation with everyone else here to see kind of what your guys' thoughts are on this. It seems like there are a lot of good positions. I actually would take the AOC position. That I think that she's doing a really good job getting out there. I think that Bernie's doing a really good job by like kind of boosting up her profile because he's kind of waning. She's being then brought up with all of that. Not only that, but she's also getting obviously experience doing all this stuff. And I think that like it's kind of like weird mentorship, right? Or not weird, but like a mentorship. And I think that's really important to be doing more. That's something why I support like having like maybe like age limits because it promotes stuff like that. Because Bernie knows he's not gonna be able to do this forever. So promoting voices like that, I think is really important. But in terms of just like the whole party, I don't think that we really kind of know where we're at right now. So we're trying a bunch of different things, and I think that's a really good thing because clearly we saw that what we were doing before absolutely was not working, and we got Trump because of it. So definitely excited to see what's going to happen.
Fantastic. Hope to hear more. Shenandoah.
Yep. Hello. My name's Chairman Shenandoah. I stream on Twitch, and like fucking every single time I'm on a debate panel, I'm a huge dork, and I always fucking pre-write my opening statements. So I'm just gonna get into it. In today's America, perception beats policy, and the Republican Party understands this far better than Democrats do. Even when Democrats are right on the issues, they're losing the information war because they no longer control the media outlets that direct the narrative. From Fox News to TikTok, right-wing voices dominate the platforms where voters form impressions regardless of facts. The result? A public that distrusts material progress, misinterprets democratic policy, and remains indifferent or confused about key issues like trans rights or race. Add to that weak, uninspiring leadership at the top of the ticket, and it's no surprise Democrats underperform against what are, in my opinion, objectively terrible candidates. If Democrats want to win again, they need to stop assuming policy speaks for itself and start fighting, especially for the narrative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soy Pill.
Yeah, hi, I'm the Soy Pill. I make video essays. I pretty much narrowed it down to two main things. One, I think that Joe Biden dropping out and Kamala Harris being replaced, or replacing him was one of the biggest issues. She was quite unpopular in the primary. She did not have a lot of time to present herself. And, she said that she would deviate not at all from Joe Biden's policies, which means that you're now the incumbent fighting against every negative thing that has happened in the last 4 years. Unfortunately, the things that she would change, child tax credits, home buyers tax credits, abortion policies, just even if they are popular policies, were not marketed well. And I kind of agree with Shenandoah. This is a media issue where it doesn't matter how good your policies are if you don't reach out. They were playing incredibly safe. They were vetting all of these different podcasters, influencers to an absurd degree, to the point where the only people that they could get on were very, very, very highly vetted, narrow people that no one really watched, like the Caller Daddy or whatever it was. And as a result, the DNC right now is reaching out to more influencers and kind of caring a lot less about the fact that, hey, maybe we shouldn't vet people to this extreme degree, because it matters how many people we talk to, and we can't play 2016 civility politics. And finally, I think that they played it too safe in the sense that the biggest upswing of their polling was when they were attacking Trump, calling them weird and calling out all their ridiculous policies. And voters just did not understand how bad Trump would be for the country. You can see this with people Googling tariffs after tariffs get implemented. You can see it with every other policy that Trump's implementing that no one really understood the implications of, because the Kamala campaign failed to explore just how bad it would be. Yeah, I think they just had a terrible, terrible messaging problem combined with a not so great candidate.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Wick.
So I think the question can be taken in a couple different ways. There's the question of why did we lose this election, meaning the 2024 election, and that's fair to discuss. But I think the more interesting question is why have Dems been losing ground in general? And I think there are two different answers here. They're related, obviously, but I do think that they're different. I think one of the problems that Democrats and the left in general has had over the last few years, and why they have lost people starting, again, lifelong Democrats starting from 2016 that have been abandoning the party, has because they have become the not fun party, the anti-fun party. They are the ones that will scold you, right, if you say a no word. They're the ones that will take you to task if you have offended someone's sensibilities and things like that. And look, I understand that sometimes you have to be a little bit of a scold, but at the same time, what you have done is a lot of people in the Democratic Party, we let the craziest among us snatch the microphone and lead the charge. And you have people saying unhinged shit that weren't in any real positions of leadership and power, but they were taken as the voice of the Democrats. And the right did a very good job of painting all Democrats with that crazy broad brush. And we just didn't push back enough, and we didn't fight back enough against that part. People need to see us policing our own more. People need to see us standing up against the excesses of the left side. One of my fears going into this is that we're going to learn the wrong lessons, and we're going to think, like I think two of the people who've said before me, like, oh, we just need to fight more. We just need to go more unhinged. We just need to do more unhinged shit. And I think that's a recipe for disaster. What gives me hope is that I am watching the right fall into many of the same traps that the Dems did back in 2016 to the present. With the rise of the quote unquote woke right and the little civil war that they're having within now, I am seeing that the right is beginning to dabble with a lot of the same tools that the more extreme Dems used that led to their electoral defeat, or was one of the major factors that led to their electoral defeat. And we'll see how that plays out. Long-winded answer, I know.
Ostensibly left, but sometimes does tread into right-wing thinking, I would say.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Burns.
I missed the questions. The question just why the Democrats lost.
And then kind of like the state of the party going forward. What do we think's going on? How do we feel about it?
It's pretty broad, but as for why the Democrats lost, I mean, we should have had a primary. I think this is something that should be forced now, whether we have an incumbent or not. We should have a forced primary. If it means that our current incumbent is put under pressure, good. Maybe you should sharpen them a little bit. I think that it also is an opportunity to not only show the presidential candidate, but also other potential candidates for when there's going to be somebody else running in 4 years. The Democrat can run an incumbent primary different than other primary if they really wanted to like splice the hairs. If there's some way to fudge it in there, you could make it so 50% of all donated primary votes go to the general election candidate, or they could make some way to make themselves feel better about it. But having this process as a safety net to check in if we're going to keep appointing people who in many households are looking at assisted living due to the age at that where they're getting. I mean, I'm not trying to be ageist, I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just saying that if your presidential candidate can't go through a primary, then they shouldn't be your presidential candidate. And having this check, I think, would be positive, honestly. And if the Republicans don't have it, then the Republicans don't have it. And I think we can still make it into an advantage. I also believe that Harris, as many other people have said here, was not somebody who was put through this process. And so not only did it, by avoiding a primary, we didn't get to check on Biden, we also didn't get to sharpen a potential replacement or have them go through that process. I understand this, if, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but, that's what it is. As for Harris herself, she didn't have any transformative ideas. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not saying she didn't have any good ideas. What I mean by transformative ideas is that the way Trump talks versus the way Harris talks, Harris will go out there and say, we're going to give you first-time home buyers a $25,000 tax credit to put towards your first home. Oh my goodness, isn't that great? And then you go over to Trump and he says, I'm going to build. We're going to build. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be cheap, easy, build. We're going to build. It's going to be cheap. And this easy delivery is a lot less policy wonky, and it's something that's also like birdshot. It hits everybody because build cheap, that helps everybody. If you're the construction worker, it helps you. If you're the person getting the house, it helps you. If the person profiting off the building, helps you. When you listen to Harris, $25,000 down payment for first-time home buyers. If you are going to be a renter in 5 years, well, then that doesn't help you. If you're somebody who's buying their second home, well, that also doesn't help you. And so the policy wonkery leading forward on the message, I understand it might be good for you and me to go, ooh and ah, look how policy wonk this is, how this is going to fed the GDP that way or this way. But most people don't listen to campaigns that way. And I think that when you have a limited time frame to deliver your message to the people, you basically need to be going like, hey, we have 90 days to deliver the message. It should be like baby's first footsteps, kind of a little bit. And not to be, don't talk down to the voter, but you need to be getting across, I think, a little bit more general messages. Past that, I also want to say that if you... I understand what Wick's trying to say when it comes to we need to check ourselves more, but I also don't believe that checking ourselves more really would have helped us at all in this election. Because in all the areas where we could have checked ourselves more, I don't see the Republicans letting up, and I don't think that's going to swing enough people in the key swing states. I mean, it might swing general vibes on the internet, but I don't know how much that's going to communicate to key states like Iowa or these other states. So I want to know, when you say, check our own more, are we talking about psychos on the internet, or are we talking about the people in the Harris campaign, and how does that communicate the votes? Because it's one thing to say if we checked ourselves more, maybe that would make vibe a little bit better, or it would get a few of the crazies out. But Hassan was kicked out of the DNC convention. Okay, he was booted out by the DNC. Vosh was kept away with a 10-foot pole. Other people, any plop streamer that could have said anything problematic in history about Israel, or anybody who could have said something that would have been in a really controversial music video from Mr. Kanye West or something, all those types of people were kept away. And so is it just going to be us checking gender stuff more? Are we talking about oh, well, if we're a little less crazy on the gender, are we a little less crazy on the trans stuff? Because I don't think the Republicans are going to let up until we're out there disavowing, saying, you know what, we're going to ban puberty blockers. You know what, we're going to ban X, Y, and Z. And if we don't get affirmative bans X, Y, and Z, Walsh is going to go out there and lie about the millions and millions of kids getting gender reassignment surgery. Whether we make it say it's going to be 5 kids, 10 kids, 11 kids, no kids, he's going to say it's millions of kids anyway, until we are completely disavowing trans people as part of a demonic movement and punishing trans kids. So I understand, like, if somebody's going out there and say something crazy, but the Democrats, I think, dealt with most of, like, keeping the, like, crazies away, at least from Harris. So, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I guess I'll just answer the
Discuss.
question. But I think that, like, when I say police our own, what I mean is that it isn't so much the people who are saying, "Oh, we have this policy position, we're pushing for this policy position." I'm talking about the people who, every time Trump spoke, was like, "He's Hitler. He's fucking Hitler. Look at him. He's Hitler. He's doing the Hitler shit." And we've been saying this since 2016.
What is
And
he doing right
eventually,
now?
Yeah.
People like, okay, we don't believe you anymore, right? The boy who cried wolf is a apt analogy for what happened. There was an actual wolf. Look, Trump was actually bad, but because we had been calling every single person a Nazi for 8 or more years, it became hard for people to believe us when we saw an actual wolf at the door.
But Wick,
when we
how-
saw
how
an
does
actual wolf
this-
out the
Generally-
door.
How did
You
this
think it
hurt
was
the
that and not 5 years of lying about Joe Biden's decaying brain?
Wick, I actually have an honest question
No,
for you.
nobody has. That's the actual trust issue with the Democratic Party.
Well, it was just
that
like a
nobody
super
believes
big
the
derailment
Democrats.
of what we were talking about. That's why.
I-
I
it was
Yeah, that's not
messaging.
really on topic here.
Yeah, it's
Deal
silly.
with
I
that,
listen to you
but I
guys all
wanna-
say
I wanna-
messaging is the problem. It's silly. Nobody, you cannot message away an 80-20 issue like people don't want trans women in women's spaces. Like, this has been rejected by the people, and here you say, "Oh, we just need to message better," and they'll suddenly accept that men's and dresses are women. This is
I just don't think
dumb.
Americans give
I
a
mean-
fuck, honestly.
This is the
Yeah.
leftism that's poisoning the party that you guys are backing up.
No,
I
wait,
mean,
no, I'm
Kamala
a
didn't promote
grillism.
this at all.
No, you didn't listen to what I said. I said don't give a fuck. I didn't even say, hey, check your pronoun. I said don't give a fuck. I'm
Yeah.
a griller, okay? So when we're talking about this issue, it's one thing to, like, say the American people have this view on the issue. It's another thing to say the American people are voting because of this issue. These are two different things. And when you poll people on these issues, they might give those answers. But you also poll people like, hey, do you think these issues are too politicized? Are we talking too much about trans people? Are we talking too much about trans and, well,
I have
people say
those polls.
overwhelmingly
Yeah, I
yes.
mean,
I have those polls in
Overwhelmingly
my
yes.
Jump in
document.
on there, Dylan.
I have those
Like,
polls in my
the trans
document.
issues are like 22 out of 22 on Gallup's list.
Hold on.
This is a problem. See what he did? See what he was able to do? We were having an actual productive discussion, and he's
About
trans,
nothing.
and suddenly you all jumped.
About
Y'all
nothing. You guys
It
are
was
all
fucking-
wrong.
it-
You're
it's-
saying
it's fucking a
messaging.
problem.
Messaging
Okay?
can fix the
It's
party.
fucking
All we have to
problem.
do is
We're telling you-
message.
we're
Shenandoah,
telling
you
you-
had a
Messaging.
question.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Messaging was 5 years of
on.
lying about
This is a
Biden's age.
problem.
Hold
You
on,
cannot
pause.
message your way out of lies.
Hold on, Tyler. Hold on, Tyler.
All right. I'm not gonna have fun. Let's go. We're here.
What he's saying kind of is true as like an outsider. I'm obviously not a dim, right? But it does seem like there was some polling that indicated what that them message Trump put out was a big one. I feel like there is a large segment of people that are like moderates that like see themselves as religious, and I think that like that kind of hurts. But I mean, I don't know if it's a derailment, but I do think that Wick kind of said something earlier as well. Is it seems like there's the extremism, and then like people want to double down on that versus like, you know, kind of what he advocated for. There just seemed to be a kind of a like a discourse between the people even here. I would even say
moderation.
yeah, versus moderation. But I would say even then, like what Tyler's saying kind of falls in that camp. He's saying it's too extreme. You know, we need to go more moderate. I don't know. Let's go to Shenandoah here.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'll just say my position. I'm actually fairly moderate within the Democratic Party itself. Like, I would probably say I'm more on the right-ish wing of the Democratic Party. And I often call myself a liberal and not a leftist for that reason, because I don't really entirely feel like I totally mesh with that. I believe that the Democrats should fight and be more militant, but I don't think that necessarily entails that they have to go all the way to the left or something like that. I think, like, being tough and, like, being willing to actually stand up for yourself and have some integrity would actually help some fucking Democrats win, even if those Democrats are, like, relatively milquetoast in terms of their political views. And I think that's the kind of leadership we need in the party right now. That's what I would like to see. And as I understand it, a lot of Democrats agree with me. There's, if I recall correctly, some poll taken shortly after Trump won where the majority of Democrats said that they wanted Democrats to fight more and become more moderate. And that's kind of my feeling as well, to be honest with you.
It's
Can I
about
ask you a
2-1 at the
question,
Harvard-Harris
Tyler?
April
Yeah.
poll. Yeah.
Oh, not me.
Well, Tyler, I mean,
Sure,
like
Bill.
if anything, I feel like you're kind of like you were arguing with Wick about this, but I think this is kind of proving his point. And I think Wick tried to point this out, which is, you can say, oh, this trans issue was really unpopular. Look at its 80-20, and the fact that Kamala barely talked about this at all. And first of all, gained numbers in the LGBT demographic. That's one of the few that she actually gained numbers in. And second of all, you look at the right wing and how much they thought it was a big deal versus how much the left wing thought it was a big deal. And yeah, you're right. If you just talk about it nonstop, as the right wing was doing compared to her campaign, it plays really well. It's like that they them she's for they them ad like worked really well. The hey, look how woke the military ad, it played really well. But unfortunately, and Dylan is right, like most people don't care about this. It's just if you just keep talking about it and pretend like it's a big issue, people are going to jump on board.
It's not. I have the exit polling. About 80% of the vote took this into consideration when they voted. On top of that, I can show you the polling. People are for
That
liberal
doesn't
values.
contradict what I said.
Yeah, people did put this into their voting. It's a top 10 issue this cycle, more so than abortion
Right,
was. If you look at the top 10
because of
issues.
the messaging, right?
Yeah. So what the Democrats need to focus on, what Shenandoah was saying, is different topics. Healthcare prices. Healthcare prices are their number one well. This is how Democrats get votes. This is how Obama won. This is how all of the new Democrat old school parties won. When Joe Biden was on stage against 12 progressives, the guy with dementia beat 12 progressives and won. The last person and only person to beat Trump was an old school beer drinking Democrat, not somebody that surrendered their party over to academia and completely shot the working class voter in the foot.
Okay, I don't think that contradicts what I was saying, though.
I don't
even disagree with what you
expanding.
just said. I'm just saying the messaging of, hey, if we just blow this trans issue up on the right or on the left, like clearly plays well with the right.
Look,
I don't think the left did it.
It's a
very much at
majority
all.
that don't want.
It's a fundraiser.
Sure,
I don't think it's a vote getter. I think there's a difference between a fundraiser and a vote getter. That's what I think the trans issue is for the right wing. Is it made them fundraise a lot of money, which maybe helped them with other ad space and stuff like that. But I don't think it flipped people. I really don't.
Yeah, I actually do want to say that as like this is at least just my poll, and it might just contradict yours. I know that sometimes polls come out weird, but at least according to Gallup, trans issues were like the least important issue according to most Americans. They ranked 22 out of 22 things that they
It's the
considered.
economy, right?
Exit
That was
Yeah, the economy was by far number one.
Is that an
By
exit
miles.
poll or was it an issue poll?
I think it was an issue poll, but
I'm going with the exit poll.
would have to
Right
look
after
at it
people
again.
vote, they answer the exit polls and say, "This is why I voted." I have them specifically in my document about that, and then I have 3 different polls. One of them showing it's a 79 to 18 issue. Even most Democrats don't want trans women in women's space.
I just don't think people care that much. Like,
I'm interested in
honestly.
trans polls as much as the next guy.
Let me-
They might not care that much about this issue, but if you have 18 other issues that you see them lying to you about, and they all start to add up, your integrity goes down. As a person.
Lying to you about.
So
Yes,
hold on,
like Joe Biden's age.
Let me expand a little bit. Joe Biden's age too. I want to add like a couple others. I know that I've talked to some people that voted Republican this time that were like old school Democrats, and they basically said they felt like they had to vote Republican because they were like white males, and they basically are super ultra left on everything else. Right? They're like gay white guys, and they're all like, "Hey, I voted Republican because we felt like there's no place for us in the party as white men." I feel like that's kind of another extremist kind of thing that seems to be something that's pushed some people out along with the trans. Now, I don't know what kind of margin, but do y'all see anything along those lines as well, or no?
That plays directly into the media narrative thing. Like if you
Yeah, that's
actually
what I was
spend
gonna
any
say.
time in these left wing circles, there's really like the worst thing you'll ever see is a college campus might be like, hey, if you're talking about this POC issue, maybe a POC should talk about it, that sort of thing. And yeah, you get some crazies here and there, but the idea that the Democratic Party is not for white men is so ridiculous. And yet it is a very strong narrative on the right wing, and I see a lot of people believe it because of the right wing messaging. They're just much better at saying, hey, they don't give a shit about you because you're a white male. And just to take a step back from all this, I mean, with trans issue, white men issue, any of these identity politics things, what's really interesting is you don't see this as, oh, the right wing dominated this election. I mean, they did have a much better media game, that's true. But I mean, from 2020 to 2024, it's 20 million fewer people voted for Democrats, and Trump gained like 2 or 3 million votes. It wasn't like, a bunch of people became right wing. There was a swing,
But a lot of
for
people
sure.
did stay
It's a
home.
bunch of people staying home.
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
that does speak more, at least to a little bit, to Tyler's point of, yeah, people are just like, well, I don't think anything's going to fucking change. You're not talking to me about my working, life changing. You're not talking to me
Right.
about my healthcare prices changing. You're talking about, at least at some point, doing nothing different. And then maybe, like Dylan said, doing a few things that might help very specific people in this very specific situation. Even the like child tax credit, which is going to help anyone who has a kid, was not really spoken spoken to many people in a way that I think was, reached them. And yet now Trump is saying, oh, we'll give you $5,000 for having a child. And I can immediately see how much more that is boosted in the media versus, actually technically more money to the same people. It was not presented the same way.
One of the problems I think that you're hitting at, and one of the reasons I would posit that a lot of people did stay home, and a lot of, frankly, it wasn't the leftists that stayed home. It wasn't the lifelong Dems, the people who were like pretty progressive. It wasn't them. It was the moderates. The moderates stayed home because the moderates, for whatever reason, couldn't discern a difference between Trump and Kamala Harris. And you could that there's a lot of reasons for that, and that's a failure of the Harris campaign. That's a failure of Democratic messaging. Harris not going like they were very they played it too safe. The Harris campaign. They weren't willing to take risks. They tried not to piss anyone off, and that pissed everyone off to an extent.
Wouldn't that appeal to the moderates?
No,
though?
she didn't. She won independent.
Hold on, if I may finish. This is
What?
what you just said, Nina, right? Is kind of indicative of what a lot of progressives think as moderate. Like, they appealed to the moderate voice in a way that a young progressive thinks a moderate thinks, right? It's like asking someone who's 80 years old to appeal to the kids. They're not going to do it correctly. It's not going to come off as authentic. It's going to be pretty bad. It's going to be pretty poorly done.
Right, but
and
in my
that's what the
experience, I
Democratic
feel
Party
like
has done with
moderates
appealing to the
tend
moderates.
to be like more voting along party lines. I don't know. Is that like actually like statistically true? I don't know the numbers on that. That just doesn't seem like that would make sense to me.
She won independents. Moderates got off the fence. That's why for the first time in 100 years, we see more registered Republicans than Democrats. Moderates made their choice, and they made their choice for Trump in a large way.
Well, moderates mostly stay
No,
home.
moderate Democrats, right?
Moderate Democrats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Center left.
I thought you were talking
Yeah.
about moderate
Stay home.
independents. My bad. Misunderstanding.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think why a lot of moderates stayed home is just like, I mean, as Soypil said in his opening statement, she did not distance herself sufficiently from Biden, and a lot of people also just didn't feel like, hey, this is going to be a really great change. A lot of Democrats were also like kind of disappointed with the Biden administration. Some were happy, but it's like the fucking R neoliberal guy, who you fucking never get to talk to except on the internet. Most people were like, at best. And I also just think that Kamala, unfortunately, she just didn't really have that chutzpah of like a strong leader. As a lot of people have said, like, she's played it too safe. Like, they shut down the weird thing that Waltz did, and it's like, that should have been fucking drilled into hell, you know what I mean? That was strong, that worked.
I have
absolutely.
citations that refute this.
Wait, hold on. When you say the weird thing, were you talking about that guy's weird? When they were talking about Vance?
Yeah, when they were like
yeah.
referring to like Vance and stuff, right?
We're going off of
yeah,
vibes.
yeah.
I'm going off of data here, guys. I'm looking at all this shit here. The Democratic Party right now in 4 polls is under 30% approval rating. If the election
have
were
to
held
understand,
today,
it is
Trump
vibes.
would still win. Trump would still win an election right now with the economy in the shitter.
What does that have to do with what Shenandoah just said?
That's telling you.
Well,
the
how do you?
party-
It would depend
I
who
didn't
the
disagree with
candidate
him.
is.
Just
It's
trying
not
to
going
get
to
that
be
out.
I still
Mr.
think
Democrat
leadership in the
around.
Democrats are weak.
Well, and let's be clear. I think that Soypil said something
Yeah,
earlier
maybe it's
that's just true. The Democrats didn't get shellacked, right? The Democrats actually, we lost by very, very thin margin. If it was a
400,000
2%
votes in 3
difference
states.
in 3 states, we would be praising Chairman, President-elect, Dictator for Life Harris right now. Right?
And
Who
Elizabeth
led
Warren
us
would
to
have
the
won.
Communist Revolution.
Albert,
But
thank you.
like
For
so
becoming a
this
basic
idea
need for
that
1
like
month.
people really loved
Hold on.
Trump. Just
I'm going to mute Wick.
there
I
are
hope he doesn't
people
say anything insightful. I don't know if I agree with that, Albert. I think if you look at the polling, people wanted more moderate policies. The people who didn't vote for Kamala were because they thought she was too left. Which, as much as I'd like a Bernie or AOC in there, I don't know if it would work. I'm very skeptical of that.
I'm looking at this data right now from Nate Silver from his Silver report, right, which tracks stuff. Net approval on immigration is -2% from the start, right? Like it was 7% on January 21st that approved of his immigration platform, and now it's -2%. If we look at trade when he first took office was -2%, January 21st, 2025. It's now -17.7%. If you look at the economy, where he was up, he had 6% approval, right? It's now at negative 13.5%. And inflation, which was negative 6%, is now at negative 24.7%. Across all these big issues that Americans care about, they are fleeing. Even his best issue, immigration, he's underwater currently on that. That's just the data.
Yeah,
so
if
let's
you
talk
pick
about
one
the
aggregate,
data.
if you pick the least accurate aggregate from last election and you ignore the most
The least
popular
accurate
aggregate,
we can go on to
you can look at the
individual
most
polls if you
popular
like.
aggregate. No, we can go to the most popular aggregate or the closest aggregate from last election and see Trump is over water in immigration. These two anecdotes that were unpopular are getting behind the mirror, and then people are going back
in
on
that
board with
aggregate. Is
immigration.
he more popular with immigration or less popular when he
Right
took
now
office?
he's less, but he's got four
Less
polls
popular,
in
exactly.
a row.
On the economy, in your data,
polls
is he
in
more
a
popular or
row.
less popular when he took office?
What is Trump have to do
Wait,
to
can we
the
check
Democrat-
I'm gonna let these guys scream. Aaron, I just saw you in chat. I just want to let you know Xander Hall shouted me out today, and I told him, one, that you met your partner in his Discord, and two, that the official Soy Pill Discord is the Xander Hall Discord, so everyone should go to that.
Okay,
Towards
I got a
immigration
question.
policy.
It doesn't matter if
hold
they're
on.
negative toward
Well,
it. This is
okay.
a
What do you mean?
microcosm of
Absolutely.
yes. This is a small snapshot in time. The economy's fucking went through the roof today. Trump just signed a trade deal with one of the 6 biggest economy in the world. We have 40 trade deals on deck, 17 of them about to be signed.
Yeah,
Did
what
you
was that?
didn't watch it this morning?
No, I'm asking you if you know.
Yes, I
Just
know.
to be clear, like the
I'm not here to
Well,
take a
explain
fucking
it
pop
to us.
quiz. I'm not here to take a pop quiz. I'm here to educate you. So
so you don't
if
know.
you can,
Fair enough.
yes,
Got
I know.
you.
You can save.
Hold
You
on.
can
Back up
save.
your points.
You can
Doesn't
save
know what
your.
he's
You
talking
can
about.
save your
Got you.
one-on-one questions for after I'm done
Hold on,
speaking.
all right,
But
hold
I'm here
on.
to educate you on
Oh,
a
God.
broader issue here. Nobody trusts them.
Jose, yes, it does bother me that I think Tyler came into this to have a screaming match. Like, this is not a discussion. I'm a little annoyed. In fact, I might call him out on it very calmly. Let's see.
Lied and he won.
Like just recently, we literally saw Visora advocate for more, and I mean I'm not like panning all doing this, but I do think she represents at least a segment that like kind of
a
thing.
socialist. She's not a Democrat.
Sure, whatever. But she's on the left, and I feel like she would vote Biden. Probably voted Biden if she was here, not in Australia. But I feel like there's a few people I've seen that on the left that have also echoed similar statements about like, hey, we need to like lead people, we need to manipulate them, we need to like gaslight them. And I think that like the Biden thing is a microcosm of that.
I don't
feel gaslighted.
disagree.
Do you
I
think
don't
that
disagree that people don't trust the Democratic Party.
Sure,
That's just true.
sure. Well, what I'm saying is, how much do you like? Do y'all think that's a problem going forward? And how do you earn people's trust back?
It's a
Because I
huge
think that is a
problem.
bigger, like I think it is a big issue.
That's a good question. How do we earn the public's trust back? And I think that the Democrats should earn the public's trust back by simply being honest. Like, hey, we fucked up here, here, and here. We are going to do better going forward, and we're going to be honest up front. And as Dylan said, I think it is opening. Every time we have an election that is a general election, we are going to have a primary, and we're going to honor that primary. Again, a lot of people don't trust the Democrats for a lot of reasons, but people don't trust Trump either. Let's be
Wick,
clear.
can I actually ask you a question? This was the question I want to ask at the
Sure,
beginning
sure.
of your opening statement. So, you see, to me, I think at a minimum, the GOP is about as hypocritical or lies as much as the Democrats do, give or take. I mean, I think more personally, but like we'll just say as much for simplicity. I find it interesting that Democrats get punished significantly more in the media for this hypocrisy, and my hypothesis as to why this is that Democrats just don't control the narrative very well. So when they play a similar game, they lose, even if they're not even playing the game as hard.
Okay,
There's a
Shem,
couple-
kind of.
yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah, I think they
reasons for that.
capitulate a little bit too much as well.
Yeah,
This
as well.
idea that Republicans control the media is a joke. Twitter is the
We're
7th
talking
most
about
popular
alternative
social
media.
media.
Okay.
Twitter is the 7th most popular social media site. Out of the top 20
What's
news
Fox
sites
News?
online,
What's Fox News?
I'm talking about social media sites first. Hold on. Out of the top 20 news
Most
outlets,
popular podcast.
only 3 of them are Republican. The rest are Democrat.
Joe
So
Rogan?
they can. Yes, Joe Rogan's not right wing. I'm talking about news.
I mean, he has become more.
He's not. No, no, Joe
He
Rogan's
literally
not right-wing.
voted
He says
for
he's
Trump.
right. This
I feel like back in the
No. The purity
There's a
testing
whole
laughing
other
is not
debate
gonna
right
work.
there.
This is fucking purity
Oh
testing. This is
my
why nobody
It's
likes
not purity
Democrats.
testing.
It's
He's
purity
clearly
testing.
he talks
Joe
about it. He
Rogan
talks
is left
about it,
wing.
my guy.
Joe Rogan is left wing.
Wait,
Joe
Tyler-
Rogan,
Joe Rogan is
Tyler-
he says he's
Tyler,
left
can I ask
wing.
a
Joe
question?
Rogan is left wing.
Tyler,
Joe
can I
Rogan
ask
is
a
not a
question?
news podcast.
I can't
Tyler.
answer Shenandoah's
Wait.
question.
Well,
He's
can I ask Tyler-
You keep moving the goalposts.
Look at
the corner. Hold on, hold on.
Joe Rogan is not a news podcast. You guys deflected off my point.
You said independent
You are
media.
lying about how much influence the right
you
has
are moving
online.
the goalposts,
If
my
you're
guy.
giving
Hold on,
it to
hold
the
on,
Lord
hold on.
Democrat.
Hold on.
Joe
hold on.
Rogan's not part of the
I'm lightly
conversation. You
media
are
now.
shifting the goalposts.
I mean, but Nina made a good point.
Projecting.
Hold on. Nina made a good point there.
Switch
Though.
to water, dude.
Fox News is number one, though. Like, I mean, I don't like. I've never
Huh?
bought like as a conservative. I've never bought that. Oh, the right doesn't have any media say whenever Fox News is number one every year. Like, we're alternative. You're number one, bro. You're not alternative.
I mean,
even I'm not buying
silly.
that. Like,
Daily Wire's up there too.
It's my assessment that essentially, like in the late 2000s and 2010s, like liberals were kind of more dominant in the media space, and that it's basically flipped backwards. Like Fox News is the largest cable news network. Newsmax has grown a lot. You have a lot of podcasters who may not necessarily explicitly be news, but they are very influential and they're very conservative. Facebook and Instagram, you got fucking Mark Zuckerberg, you know what I mean, who's like kind of openly aligning himself with Trump. You know, obviously X is like it drives the conversation a lot. A lot of news people are on X and so on.
Most news organizations. I won't say all.
My roommate's cat just knocked down a mirror, and thank God my bed's there. It would have shattered and fucking killed me.
Information, they are on X. Right?
Yeah,
it's
and
not
that's a
how
big
many
deal.
people are on. It's who is on. And who is on, who is utilizing it. It's the people who are making the news, who are reporting the news, who are getting their
Is that a pun, Virgo?
headlines. They're
It's a good
figuring
pun.
out what
Thank
they're
you
going
for
to
the
report
$2.
on. The editors are on there. They're making like, hey, there's a lot of people on X talking about this. We need to report on this. So to act as if X and doesn't drive the narrative in even the mainstream media
Seventh most
is just
popular
not
social
true.
media. 7th most popular social media site.
Oh my God! So
the
I don't
other
think
6 are doing the opposite. And you're just hand waving it away. Like Democrats just don't do messaging. Everyone knows their message.
Tyler,
It
why
is
are you
not
yelling?
a messaging
No
issue.
one else here is
It's
yelling.
the
You're the only one
context.
yelling. Why are you yelling, dude?
I'm trying to get in. There's a lot of cross. I haven't even gotten a full
I
point.
promise
So-
you, you're the
won't
only
even
one.
let me finish answering my question, Shenandoah.
yeah.
I'm trying to
Let's
get
go.
in there, man. There's
Let's
6
go.
people
Let's
saying the
go.
same
Calm
thing.
down.
Here's
Did
my-
ask a question.
Listen, we're
I
only 30
remember
minutes
what your
in. Relax.
question
Calm
is.
down. Like,
This is-
okay, go ahead, Wick. I
What
want
did I
to
ask you?
This
Wait,
isn't
wait,
my
I'm sorry.
first rodeo with Tyler. I know how he operates, right? He won't let you get in a point. You gotta
Oh, that's
make
it.
sure to write down what people ask you because he'll just interrupt.
The guy that raises his
That's
hand all the
fine.
time.
But here
All
we
right.
go. Shenandoah, you asked me like, aren't we playing a losing game with this, right? Aren't we?
I am the Fox. Thank you for the $5. I don't think he's bad faith. I think he's being very sincere, but he is trying to be aggressive to, I think, Dylan and Wick. So
Oh,
Be
go
okay,
ahead.
just like
go
a
on,
small
quickly,
caveat.
quickly.
I do also want to say that I do agree that Democrats should try to be more honest. Like this isn't me just saying like, oh, we should just be like as depraved as possible. I just want to say that, but go ahead.
Yeah. And again, one of the reasons that they don't trust us is we have lied to them before. We've been caught lying, and that's bad. We should never do that. But the reason that Republicans don't get punished as much as Democrats do is because we in the Democratic Party have been fighting a war with our extremists. The right lost their war to the extremists. The fact that they don't get punished for their outright lies is evidence that they lost that war to their extremists, because the extremists is like the watchword of the extremists is it's okay when I do it, right? They'll punish the Republicans' lie or the Democrats' lies all day or the enemy's lies all day, but it's okay when they do it. They're doing it for the cause. They're doing it for the right reasons, right? They're lying for for whatever they support when it comes to the MAGA movement, the MAGA, making America great again, protecting the white race, what have you, right? And they are willing to overlook
Gibbs
Hegseth's.
is hating this.
Yeah, they're willing to overlook
This is
Hegseth's.
the line. It's okay.
Hegseth's just brazen mishandling of classified information, right? And then they're willing to overlook Gabbard and Radcliffe lying about it under oath, right? Lest we forget, before Congress in a hearing, just straight up lying about it, saying, no, there was no classified information in that thing. And then the leaks came out right after that, and they're like, oh, no, that information is absolutely classified. It's insane. But that's just the kind of fight that they lost for the most part. And that's the playing field. We are playing in a field where MAGA can lie about literally anything. They can go, MAGA can shoot their voters' dogs, and their voters will still vote for them.
It's wild.
I
Again,
hold on. You
I'm
know
the only
what's
way. It's like a
funny?
5v1.
Hold on. I
That's
do want to.
wild to me.
I do want to say that's interesting, Wick, because I I don't know that I agree with you. I know that I'm as the only Republican here.
I know you don't
sure,
agree
sure,
with
that's
me, but
fine.
that's okay.
It's but it's
Well, we're
funny
talking
to
about the
me.
White House. He's totally right, though, right?
But it's funny to me because you say this, and in my head, I'm like, Trump was a pretty big step left for the Republicans, right? Like he's like pretty pro LGBTQ. He's like pro gun control. He's got like some other stuff, and so I'm thinking, man, we voted moderate this time. And then I hear you say this, you're like, the extremists are in control, and I'm like, well, somewhere there's got to be one of us has got to be real, real wrong here. And I don't know. I
Well,
find
to
that
bring-
interesting.
Well, let me
Go ahead,
address
yeah,
that
go
real
ahead.
quick. Let me address that real
And
quick.
then we'll go to Nina. Go ahead.
What I'm talking about extremism, I'm talking about not beliefs but behaviors. Does that make sense? So I don't. You can have a weird extreme belief, but I don't.
All right, I'm so fucking triggered right now because not only is Gibbs just totally wrong, but now Wick is going to defend this by saying, well, actually, it's beliefs and not behaviors, as if the policies of Trump are not, to a degree, in almost every aspect, right of everything the fucking Republicans ever do, like on trade, on tariffs, on all this bullshit. Oh my god.
Get that shit.
Yeah, go ahead,
Sure.
Nina. You were saying something.
Yeah, no, I think that like one of the big, I think maybe, I mean, Trump was basically like a, more liberal, like as an individual. But the thing is, ironically, it seems like he's not in charge. It seems like Stephen Miller is the one in charge now because every single time we see him signing something, it looks like it's the first time he's ever seen it. And he spent, I think, 22% of his presidency golfing. Or on an interview, or live streaming and saying something. He doesn't know what the fuck is going on, like, unironically.
Can someone on the panel tell me how Trump is more liberal? I'm very confused.
I am
This is
also
Well,
wild.
confused.
well,
Wild.
he's been,
Yes,
he's been
more
very
liberal
positive
because he cheats on his
LGBTQ.
So ignore exit polling data.
No, I'm
Ignore
just
saying
saying
polling
as a
data.
person, I just don't think he
Makes
really
sense.
cares.
We're
But
ignoring-
the fact that the right has become so militant is not because Trump like necessarily like has like this militant idea for it. I think that people surrounding him do and use him as like a prop.
So we're ignoring polling data and exit polling data on trans people saying nobody cares, but then you guys are saying that people care a lot about Pete Hegseth.
We
leaking
talked about different
trans?
data. You said
Yeah,
that.
wait,
Republicans
Am
came
I
out for about a
saying-
week and said that
I
was
said
bad,
the
and then the
exact
country
opposite.
moved
I
on.
said
No
that
one
MAGA
cared.
does not care how Pete
No one
Hegseth
cares.
mishandled classified
one cares.
information because they just.
Who is
again,
going to vote on that?
They
Well-
might not vote on it, but if you don't.
Then
think
why the fuck are you
fair,
bringing
then
it
why?
up?
Wait,
We're
wha-
talking about the
Because
Democratic
we're talking
Party here.
about-
Like,
we're
it's
talking about
silly to talk
extremism.
about
Do you not
Trump's
listen to the
administration.
conversation? We're having
Yeah,
a
we're talking about the
conversation,
Democratic
and
Party.
I'm
Did you
trying
not know
to-
the
I used
panel?
this as an example.
Wick, I'm trying to talk. You
I
cut me
gave
off
this
again.
as
Wick, I'm
Hold
talking. You
on,
cut me off
hold
again.
on.
Wick, I'm talking. You cut me off again. Wick, I'm talking. You cut me off again.
All right, don't make me mute people.
This
All right.
isn't your panel. I know you love
Relax.
debating on those.
Hold
but
on,
shut
relax.
the fuck up for a minute.
Calm down. Calm
Right.
down. You're angry. Like,
Guys, I'm just happy that I can mute these people whenever I want, regardless. And since I'm not able to talk because I'm not being a loud, obnoxious person, I can talk to you guys. Thanks for being here, guys. I am the Fox. Thank you for the $5. I really could be wrong, but how can someone in good faith say that Joe Rogan is left-wing? In good faith, in the sense that, yeah, he used to be a Bernie supporter, and he is a human lint roller who will just pick up whoever the last person said anything to him said, but now he's in a right-wing bubble. So now, obviously not left-wing. But, at some point.
California, her fucking office did a bunch of shit behind the scenes to get it passed. All sorts of things. She was in the one of the leaders of this movement that we saw that was in cities decriminalizing certain things, letting people that go out with no bail for holding somebody at gunpoint the same day, which is how it currently still is in New York and California. So
Isn't she
certain
an
things.
AG? What do you?
Yes, she was the.
She doesn't make laws. What do you mean?
I didn't say she made the law. You got to keep up. I'm not going to repeat myself. I got to keep
Oh my
going
God.
here. So
All
what
right,
Dylan was saying here.
She's not okay.
In the 2024 primary, she ran on all this things. She got 4% of the vote. The problem with Harris wasn't she didn't have transformative ideas. It's the fact that she didn't denounce all of her transformative ideas from the past. She just said, I'm going to do what Biden did. So she had this
transformative
giant
ideas?
backlog.
Honestly-
I just went through 3 options.
No. What did she not
I have
denounce?
this is
Mark-
a different. Well,
Start on crime policy.
I thought it was. I wanted to
yeah, go
respond to
ahead.
it.
Yeah, go ahead, Dylan.
So
Mark,
honestly,
start with that.
I'm gonna respond to it with a different critique of Harris. So this isn't even a defense of Harris. I have of the belief that people still by the time the vote was being counted did not know much about Harris. She was not given a prominent position in the administration. Nobody knew what she did for 4 years, besides that she had something to do with the border, which is not going to give her a particularly good representation in this environment. And so while there was reporting on her time as AG, and she did talk about her time, like, she's the prosecutor running against a felon, people would hear like little snippets and tidbits. I don't think the average voter knew much about that. And so I think that's part of the reason why she lost is because that became her just being a representation of the status quo. Well, Trump then
Yeah.
became once again an agent of change. So I really don't
100%.
think that
They
record
used
had much
they
to do with
used
her
her record
losing.
against Trump. That's Trump's entire campaign. I live
Well,
in
no,
a swing state.
I know,
watch
I
these
know.
commercials.
I'm not saying that Trump didn't do that. I'm just saying it didn't end up being, I think, the deciding factor.
If I could also build on that, I also think
Go ahead,
honestly that just people just do not remember this stuff. People forgot a lot from Trump
Yeah,
one
I barely
alone.
remember it, man.
Yeah, let alone fucking Kamala's AG term. Like it's just
Remember the
I
Muslim
honestly
ban?
think, yeah, I mean a lot of people forgot about a lot
Yeah.
of things about Trump. And I think polling data often reflects that where it's like, oh,
Hey
what are you-
guys,
Yeah,
everybody's
no,
voting based on the Cohen scandal. Everybody knows Roy Cohen. Everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the
Shannon-
thing about
Shannon-
politics: it's the art of
Yeah.
the present. Like it's the eternal present. Like
Mhm.
it's impossible to predict who's going to win in 2026 or 2028 because
Of course.
they're
Well,
they're going to judge it by the month before the election. What happens
Yeah.
within that month or maybe two?
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
that's going to be what drives most of the
Yeah.
voters.
Yeah, I was
That's
going
not
to
to say
build
that
off
I-
what you said, Shenandoah. It's like,
Yeah, go
on
ahead.
one hand, it's what exactly happens like within the first couple months before. So because what Dylan said, Kamala becomes the new candidate, and it's like, okay, wait, hold on, who is this? Let's like remember everything. The right wing is able to drive the narrative on that by making people give a shit about the one time she said maybe she would provide a prisoner who also is an illegal immigrant with health care, which I don't think anyone should give a shit about, but that is a thing that
Trump
people
policy.
did care. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing people cared about for some fucking reason because they were able to blow it up. But also, I think you could see this reflected in the 2022 midterms versus 2024, how riled up people were when Roe v. Wade got overturned and abortion rights were kind of slipping away. And even though that was progressing and getting worse in 2024, people did not, it wasn't as blown up in the same way. It was just one of several things in a platform rather than, hey, holy shit, this is happening, everyone go out and vote 2022. So I think this is also, people just have short-term memory, and that's why driving the media narrative is so important. You have to blast this in their face.
Short-term memory just
But-
keeps getting shorter.
Let me ask a question real quick. Soy Pill. So okay, I want you to listen how you describe that. I will never forget this moment till the day I die.
Thanks, Soy Pill.
And it was during the debate with Kamala, and I was in Wick's chat. We're over here, and he said that he's like, oh, they're trying to give illegal aliens in prison transgender surgeries, and we all laughed, like just, haha. This is some crazy Trump shit. Then we Google it, and that's what it says. And then you just now described it, and you chose to give them health care. And I feel like that's part of what maybe I think some of the people in the middle are saying. They're like, oh, this seems like dishonest. You're like, oh, it's healthcare. Well, okay.
I
And
mean,
one part, yeah, it is.
yeah.
But on the other hand, it's pretty extreme. Like my taxpayers are paying. Like taxpayers are paying
Yeah,
for an
for-
extreme
again,
policy of some mind. Like
but if
you don't
this-
see that as like somewhat dishonest in like some people's minds.
Sort of. I mean, I understand why you could view that as that way. I wasn't trying to present it dishonestly, but I think what's
No, I mean,
frustrating.
I don't think you
Well,
were. That's
sure,
not what I'm saying. I apologize if you took it that
yeah,
way.
no. I don't think you're accusing me, but I see what you're saying, and I think the problem is you look at, let's say this was like a person. Let's take the extreme right wing example. It's like, oh, a legal immigrant prisoner said they wanted to become a snake, and they asked for these scale tattoos all over their body, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can see how someone would see that and say, like, why is my tax dollars paying for this aesthetic surgery? I think what the problem is that, like, no matter how ridiculous it is, for if it's a trans person getting surgery, if it's this person saying I want scaly snake tattoos, this is like a person in prison, and it's like at most like affecting little to no one, versus you could be spending this time hammering in the fact how Trump is openly saying he wants to raise all prices on foreign goods by 10 to 20% across the board, which is going to be hurting like so many more people. And the fact that they were able to drive that home and say, look at this ridiculous policy, and you can think that's ridiculous, that's totally fair. If you're like, hey, I don't think I should give trans surgeries to this illegal immigrant, okay, sure, maybe that's your position, but this is such an irrelevant point, and the fact that people cared so much about it was because of the media being able to blow that up, because that does sound ridiculous. And when you see she did say, like, yeah, I would give them healthcare if it's part of healthcare, then they're like, oh, I guess she supports that. Who gives a
That's not
shit,
what she
though?
said.
Yeah,
She
this
said
does
she wanted
fight
to
the
change. She
double
is bragging about changing the policy in California to make it that way.
Sure.
That's what
Yeah,
the ACLU
bragging
is.
about saying we can give
In that
healthcare to
same
illegals.
debate, if you remember, in that same debate, Trump also said they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, right? It just made like
Say
the
that.
fact
That's why
that
it
he
was
chose
kind
to
of.
focus on one and not the other.
Well,
and
that's
one
what
is
I'm
the one-
saying, Wick. They're
one
both
we
crazy
remember
statements.
and one we don't.
No, we remembered both, but the thing is,
What
one
is
was
the-
like crazy because, like, oh, Trump says crazy shit. I can't believe he said that
Sure.
nationally. And then he said the second one, we're like, oh, that's two crazy ones. Look at this crazy bastard. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, this one's true.
Yeah.
And how
You
many
know, like-
people didn't vote for Trump because they found out he lied about that? Like 0, probably.
It wasn't. At the end of the day, though, like who's going to trust the Democratic Party that had a 35% approval rating on the economy, saying the economy is great by every metric? Voters are just stupid. Who's going to trust them when they start giving an economic message?
Yeah,
I'm
well,
telling
I
you,
think
it's nobody.
but they were right.
Now, I think that's true. Oh, did I? Oh no, no!
No, you're still here. You're just.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
yeah.
you're okay.
Voters are all stupid.
Figuring out his stuff.
I agree
On
with
a
that.
productive note, I think that
That
you're
was a good
kind of
exit.
hitting on something
Yeah.
that.
Hey, that was good. Yeah, he's frozen.
He just fucking faded
That
away.
would be a good
Fucking
thumbnail.
Wakanda forever. Gone.
Yeah.
I'll go out that way.
Yeah.
Have you did like the auto?
Real quick, I am Mr. the Fox. Thank you for the $10. The reason I genuinely respect you and enjoy watching your debates is that you do so well at not dismissing people and giving people a chance that I couldn't. You know, I appreciate that. I am Mr. the Fox. I also dismiss people a lot, though, like I just did by saying voters are stupid.
Thinking like voters are smart. They're just random people. They're dipshits. They don't know anything. Like I'm not saying everyone's like that, but let's make a
Messaging. You're stupid. Vote for me.
easel to be absorbed by like anybody. Like it's like having a teacher that like does not like assumes you already know what they're going to teach you. That's not how we should do it. We should be teaching them. We should be bringing
Messaging.
up constantly like exactly what Trump's doing, what he did, how it's affecting. Like when Kamala says the whole thing about the tax credits, like what does that really mean for me?
Well,
You know what I mean? Like I don't think people genuinely like understand that type of stuff.
I mean,
and you
just
need to.
well, let me ask you this,
explain it.
Nina.
It's a Republican
Let me ask-
policy.
Well, let me ask you this, Nina. Though, so like, I think part of what I'm like, you're kind of hitting at maybe the second part of what I was trying to talk about with soy is there's like a group of people that feels like whenever you'll try to explain it, it comes off as like uppity or pretentious or condescending. Like you really think I'm too dumb to understand this? Like that's gonna make
That's
me
fine.
even if you're right, it makes me not want to vote for
Yeah,
you.
no, Gribbs,
Just-
I
I think that's a
100%.
large
Yeah, I
portion of
agree.
people.
We should
No,
not message like that specifically.
Yes.
Like no
Well,
leader of the Democrats.
by
should
that
say
metric,
shit.
how is Trump's economy not good by every metric if the only bad thing you're looking at right now is the polling data?
Well,
What?
it's good in every metric.
That's what Wick was bringing up. He
because
went
all
through the
good
polling
things
data
are,
Hold on.
point by
Trump
point.
economy,
Hold on,
and
our
all the bad
economy
things are the
shrunk
A
Biden
little bit
economy.
off. What we were
We
just
had a
talking about.
negative
Okay.
3%
he's back.
growth in the GDP last
Did you
quarter.
look at the last month of GDP? Like the
Negative
fucking
places.
skyrocketing.
Okay,
We have
I don't
a
want to.
skyrocketing
We're not
stock
talking about
market
the GDP right now. I mean,
I think we should probably not measure GDP by month. Maybe by quarter makes more sense. or by
yeah, it's
different
more. Yeah,
metric.
nice. So what about
That's
how
the
you
two
usually
quarters
do
that
it.
it
That's
shrunk
literally
under
how you
Biden
do it.
in July 2024? The two
Hold on.
quarters back to back it shrunk under Biden. That was
Wait,
a
hold
good
on.
economy by every metric.
Is that what I said? And number
I
one,
mean, I'm
but
asking-
Biden's
you said by
economy was
quarter, so I'm
definitely
asking
better
you,
than
is that a
Trump's
good
There
economy?
was much stronger investor confidence, much stronger consumer confidence. We had much more stable GDP growth. The GDP was growing until we had the shrinkage after the tariffs were implemented. Now, we can say what we want about the economy up to that point. There were still things that were weak about the economy when it comes to high credit card debt. There was still the problem with the housing crisis. But when Trump instituted the tariffs, he caused a capital panic. He increased the yields on 10-year bonds. Investor confidence still hasn't fully recovered. Consumer confidence is still in the shitter. And while the threat of recession has receded slightly, it's still looming in the background, and we have yet to see any measurable benefit from this tariff policy.
Almost every point you brought up was also true in the crash that happened between April and July
Okay.
2024. And on top of that, consumer confidence dropped in the same way.
Self-inflicted
Yeah,
tariff
but
policy.
hold on.
Yeah, well, this is what Trump ran on, so there's a difference.
Hold on,
One is
hold on.
mismanagement and denying inflation existed for 9 months, and the other one is what I ran on.
Well,
Yeah,
I
if
think
I
small
run on
businesses
myself
weren't.
Hold on,
in the
hold
foot,
on.
that's
Can
not
I-
something to- it's just not brag about.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would also
Oh.
refocus it. I don't like. I don't.
I'm sorry, my muscular mom, that you are literally triggered PTSD about this, but thank you for stopping in.
But so yeah, I guess it's the gaslighting. But let's go back to the messaging thing. Shenandoah, you seem to be you were responding to like that comment I made about it being.
I hit him point by point, dude.
Where were you going with that? If you wanted to,
Can you repeat the
elaborate?
comment for me? Just
Yeah,
because
no, I'm basically saying
someone's
like
going on.
All right, he's going to repeat this so I can skip this. Thank you for the 100 from Tomi of Czech money. I thought they used the euro. Average person's IQ is only 100. They can't follow basic rules of logic. The morons vastly outnumber us. True, but what I'm about to say, if they let me talk, is that yes, we need better messaging. I'm going to bring up Pete Buttigieg, and I hope I span the propeller sufficiently for you, Virgo. Thank you for the $5.
Look, you guys are stupid because that also is like.
Well, that's not what I
ultimately-
was saying.
No, I know you're not. Just to be clear, like I don't want to like fucking completely strawman you. I know you're not saying like Joe Biden should just call like fucking fucking like the
I guess
average
just to
person an idiot.
reframe, what I meant was simple
Yeah.
messaging. You know, like I think of the way
Yeah.
that like Trump speaks, like it resonates with people because he does speak in very simple terms.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think that is like kind of not necessarily something that we should replicate directly, but take that as a lesson that we need to speak very plainly, you know?
Simplify your
Nina-
messaging and make it so that just
Right.
about
Yeah.
anybody with any level of education can understand it.
Yeah, because it is
Exactly.
also just hard to punch through. It's not even like a stupidity thing. It's just that there's so much going on, and the longer your message is, the harder it is to repeat it. I mean, it's a simple
Right.
it's a simple messaging thing. Like, the more simple your fucking slogans are, the better usually.
And
Kamala
Yeah, I was
spoke
being
at
a little
fourth grade
aggressive, but yes,
level.
that is what I
Lot of head
meant.
movement.
there was a
Kamala
great
spoke at like a 4th grade level, and Biden couldn't speak. So, like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Neither of them were
I
articulate.
get it. You don't like Biden.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I liked his year. His year 3 was actually pretty solid. I like that.
well, you can
No,
look at,
otherwise,
I think
But-
a good example of
go,
this
go
is Nina. I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but when Pete Buttigieg recently went on this podcast and explained like
Oh,
tariffs,
yes.
it was very, very blunt. It was not condescending, and I agree with your point, Gibbs. That like no matter how well the economy has recovered, no matter how much better we're doing than other people based on inflation metrics recovering from COVID, if you just say, "Hey, I know you're struggling, but actually these numbers are good," yeah, that's horrible messaging. It's not how
Yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
matter. It doesn't matter if those numbers are true. People who feel the struggle, even if it is completely vibes based, even if their prices might be going up, but their wages are going up. Like, you know, some people are facing some sort of hardship based on certain numbers, and some people are just like, it seems worse. And regardless, you can't just tell those people you're stupid. I agree. And that's why I think when Pete Buttigieg goes up and is like, hey, this is how a tariff works. This is why you're going to be paying more. Like, it's a very basic kind of thing. And that's what we need more of. And yeah, Nina, you're right. You don't need to go up and just say, I don't know what the fuck, the Kamala crime, Trump safety, or whatever that stupid fucking slogan is. Although that does work with his base, but you still need to be able to say, hey, I'm going to explain this to you plainly. And that's why I think Kamala Harris needed to go more like these Pete Buttigieg podcasts and just have these very basic conversations about, hey, this is what the Trump administration is going to do to you.
One of the
Yeah, I
Oh
agree.
no, finish and then I'll.
That was basically. I think that I think you can look at this. They kneecapped a lot of harder progressive PACs and speakers, and like I think Dylan brought this up, where it's like, yeah, we ejected Hassan, we ejected Bosch. Whether or not you agree with that is totally up to you. The thing is, their vetting process for going on these different shows was very, very strict. They were very, very careful. Oh, well, like, is this guy saying like one thing out of line? Meanwhile, Trump is going on whatever the fuck. I mean, he started off his campaign in 2016 going on Alex Jones. Now he's going on whoever the hell he wants to go on because he knows
Could
that
be on the next
people-
Kanye album.
Yeah, he might as well
Okay,
be,
I'll,
right?
I'll make a strong statement right now on that note because I agree with you. I think that not going on a lot of these podcasts and being too careful and too cagey, right, did hurt the Harris campaign, and that should not have.
Yeah, she
happened.
didn't
Whoever
come off
advised her to
very
do that is
relatable.
should be fired and never allowed
Yeah.
to consult
She had
for
wine
any
bomb
campaign
energy.
ever again. But I will say this: had she gone on Hassan Piker's podcast, okay, she sat down with him, and then during their discussion, called him an anti-Semitic freak that no one should ever listen to, and then said, "We don't want you anywhere near our party." 400 electoral votes victory for Harris. It would
Would've
have
helped.
one of the
Would've
things a
helped.
lot of people were looking
Pretty
forward.
big.
I don't
Yeah,
think-
again,
I don't
she-
think
she-
most people
hold on,
know
She
who
was a DA. She
Hassan
can be
is.
aggressive.
Why I'm saying
It
that
would have helped.
is one of the reasons I'm saying that is because one of the things that a lot of moderates were looking for is Harris willing to repudiate the extremists that are seen to be within her camp? Is she willing to speak out against them? And for the most
Is
part,
this-
she kind of was.
Is this an unironic position?
Yeah, like to what
It is
degree?
an ironic position.
So what
What do you
degree
think?
did
You said
she-
you
No,
said
no,
numbers
no,
for that?
and I'll tell you why, this is a
Hold on,
sister
hold on,
soldier
okay.
moment.
All right.
You laugh,
Albeit
but
one
this is
and
hold on,
100%
hold on,
right.
Shut the
Okay.
fuck up. This
Hold
is
on,
what
Tyler.
happened to Clinton in the 90s, okay?
Sister
He
Soldier.
had a sister soldier
Clinton
moment.
said, "Fuck
Went
you," his
into
son.
a leftist space, like a Rainbow Coalition dinner of some sort, right? And he spoke out against someone who was at the time speaking Sister Soldier, who had made some racist comments about white people, and he got up and he, to her fate, to the whole crowd, repudiated her. And
He's
this
right.
boosted his numbers. It made him much more popular. It made him much more electable. Harris needs that. Harris
Yeah, I think it's
needed
a
that.
projection of
I
strength.
don't
more
don't
than
hold on, I
think
would-
that. Wait,
Yeah, I wanna-
okay,
I wanna-
it's
I
one
wanna
thing
say-
to say
yeah.
that.
I don't
Okay,
necessarily agree with
if-
everything with that.
What did she
was
hold
that
on?
towards me or was that towards somebody
Dylan,
else?
I want to hear your response. I don't care.
Yeah, I
what
want
you
to
Okay.
get. Yeah.
So I'm not against her having a moment where, like for example, I hated that moment from Bernie Sanders back during, I think it was 2016. I forget. Those two people waddled on the stage over to the mic. I forget who those two women
There was
were,
a BLM,
but
yeah.
they were trying to grab the mic like, we're demanding this time. He should have just told them to get off the stage and continue with his rally. He should have shown a certain amount of backbone so that he can like. Not that, hey, look, I don't respect people's opinion, but this is my rally, this is my event. I can show a certain amount of control, you know. And I think that what you're asking for is for her to show control. I don't know if it really helps to go onto another man's platform who happens to be the top political streamer on Twitch when the Harris's campaign's goal is to help like try to boost voter turnout. They want to boost youth turnout. Hassan's popular with young people. I don't think in my mind that we're going to gain enough votes to make it worth it, or certainly anything that would
We
actually
wouldn't have lost a
gain
single
even if you
goddamn vote.
even if you gain
Even
votes,
if you did,
even if you gain votes, you're going to get like what 20,000 votes from the people who don't like it's you're not going to change the outcome of the election.
is 100%
I don't even
right.
think you're going to gain votes.
Yeah,
Th-
who,
th-
who,
this
who
the
is
problem.
the
Like you said, we
hates
only gave 20,000
Hassan?
votes. We only needed a
Wick,
few in a
but
few
Wick,
states.
who's the hate
Most
Hassan
people don't know
coalition?
who Hassan is.
Yeah, like
And
Yeah,
like,
I
yeah,
do.
where
yeah,
is
it's
it?
the Palestinian protesters that were in Columbia, Harvard, committing hate crimes against Jews, and the colleges that are now currently suing the Trump administration to push back against civil rights legislation. That's what the voters were paying attention to and hate. 78% of the voters in a March poll said they want Israel to stay in Gaza until they completely finish off and remove Hamas. 78% of the country. What other issues are 80-20 like this besides trans issues? It's like,
Well,
but why is
I
it?
would've-
Why is it?
I would've called it-
Why is it Harris's job? But that doesn't translate to it being Harris's job
Well-
to go to these protests and like condemn these people.
Yes.
That's not to say it wouldn't be politically
I'm
beneficial.
not saying
I
the
just don't
going
same
think
to
way
it's
that Trump has to
negative.
condone whites or have
I'm
to go out and
saying
condemn white
going
supremacists.
to
I
a
like- I like-
representative of a group that are seen as aligned with the Dem, even though they're not. Like, let's be clear, Hassan Piker did not promote Harris to his he wasn't advocating for them to help elect Harris or anything like that. He didn't do a damn thing, right? A damn thing to get Democrats elected, right? Mike from PA, his little orbiter buddy, actively advocated people not vote for Harris, right? And Harris didn't say one word bad against them. She just didn't scream death to Israel enough for them. But here's the thing, like the reason I'm advocating for this is I think that we need as Democrats to show that we're willing to stand up against what people feel are the extremes of our coalition and our party. People are tired. They're tired of this extremist movement. And I guarantee you that if she had done something like that, it didn't have to be exactly that. It doesn't have to be exactly Hassan Piker. It could be another representative. Pick one. Doesn't matter. Pick someone popular who can be painted as an extremist and throw them to the wolves. Sacrifice them on the altar.
Mehdi Hassan.
Pick, like, how about we pick
Ty-
like an actual? So what? Wait, okay. If you were to do this, in my mind, you would pick an actual celebrity, somebody, and I'm not trying to be mean to Hassan, but you would pick somebody who like most Americans know that aren't like under the age of 25, right?
Mehdi
You would want to
Hassan.
aim for the people who, on average, actually come out and vote. On like these young people do come out, but not as much. It would be some celebrity who does say something stupid like "I hate all white people" or something, and then she just retweets and say like I don't know some. So I can. I mean, I'm trying to
love
imagine
white
whatever this
people.
moment
Well,
would be.
I would
It would depend on
engage
whatever
with
the
you
tweet
guys,
is.
though.
Wait,
But
can I bring
I-
a fact check
I-
real
I-
quick?
again, like
Gibbs,
I'm
can I
just
bring
all
in
I'm
a fact
saying
check
is
real quick?
I don't think
do
that condemning anybody's favorite Twitch streamer or anybody's least favorite Twitch streamer would have changed the outcome of the election. It would have to be as a general presentation problem.
Right, and just to add on to that, Dylan, because I totally agree. I think calling Hassan out as anti-Semitic would not have won very many, if any, votes. But yes, Tyler, it is an 80-20 in terms of basic whatever your poll was. But 50% of Democrats or anyone who leans Democrat, so even centrist, think that Trump is favoring Israel too much. So like the idea that if we called out the Palestinian movement within our own party, that somehow this is going to like sway some like enough of a swath of people. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think going harder on things that people really don't like would be a better thing, and that's why I think Kamala should have called Donald Trump a retard on the debate stage. But I don't think that calling Hassan Piker an anti-Semite would have helped at all.
Well,
You're ignoring.
Before you
a
respond,
part of
hold on, Tyler. Before you respond, I also want to engage with what Dylan just said, because I think he presented an interesting dichotomy, right? He said, you brought up the going after Hassan, and I think, and how like nobody over the age of 25 is going to know who that is, and that's an interesting thing to me, because on one side we have what like a lot of people are saying, oh, the right took over the alt media. They're like really good at this. We need to do more of that. And then you see them try to like manufacture this with giving Gavin Newsom a podcast, et cetera, et cetera. But then at the same time, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, yeah, Hassan might have actually been a good one to call out because he's an extremist and not very many people know him, and it could be like good branding. But at the same time, it's like, do you really want to like is this the market you want to engage in? Like how do you manage these things
here's
at the
in
same
all
time,
honesty,
like while like calling them out versus like a celebrity who's gonna have way more name value? Like what do you
okay, I will say that if there is a celebrity you can point to that you think would be better, fair enough. I'm open to that discussion. My point here is that you pick someone that is pretty popular, but that isn't going to vote for you anyway, really. Who isn't like Ilhan Omar or someone you have to work with in Congress, right? But is someone that is sacrificable, right? And a lot of people will say things like, well, oh, we don't want to alienate these people, the pro-Palestinian people. Let's be
You
clear.
want a fall guy? Is that what we want?
Yes.
Well, is like
Unironically.
organic. He's like organic, right?
Unironically.
Like,
But
Mehdi Hasan at MSNBC.
if I can finish. Obviously, that isn't the only point of failure of the Harris campaign. There was multiple points of failure. I don't know if just that would have changed the outcome at the end of the day. But I am saying this as a general rule going forward, that the Democratic Party needs to stop being scared of its extremists and needs to call them out and needs to become and brand itself as we are going to stand up against our crazies. Look at Trump. He's bowing to the crazies. Look at us.
Point.
We're going to stand up against the crazies.
Well,
That's
wait,
my point. We're
if
just
it's working for
what
Trump,
crazy
then
is.
why shouldn't we
We
bow
just
to the
kicked
crazies?
Hassan out of the conference a little harder. If Harris personally escorted him out, then she would have won the election.
Again, this is a W
Lift him
point
up
for Wicked.
like fucking WWE
if
style.
Harris had showed up,
I mean, that's not really politics.
no one
Trump already did
covered
that.
Hassan getting kicked out because Hassan, unironically, Harris didn't do it. If Harris had done it, you would have had Fox News cover it, CNN cover it, MSNBC cover it. They were absolutely covering every single show that Harris went on, every single interview she did, every single talk she did. The news organizations were there. So yes, Harris, one of the benefits of being a presidential candidate is being able to get the eyeballs. So you pick someone that maybe people don't know too much about, but you can frame it.
Thank you, Jake and Bake, for the 5.
Right?
I agree.
As
Calling out
super
Hassan,
Okay,
trans
what
issues,
happened? What
biggest two
happened?
issues.
Okay. Let me throw this up to you. And this is a general problem. What happens when Harris walks up to Hassan? She says, "Hey Hassan, you're acting crazy. You can't say what you've said about Israel here. We stand with Israel. You have to lead." And then he says, "You locked up all those black kids. You did X, Y, and Z. And then all the camera shots is going to be left wingers, maybe showing her boss girl moment. It's also going to be showing genocide Joe, genocide Kamala, bombing the kids. You're failing on X, Y, and Z." And my question is, do you think Harris is enough of a, good candidate, good at messaging in that moment to make this a win?
Hassan, Harris could beat Hassan.
Okay.
That's
I
not
would
necessarily been
go to
litigated.
Mehdi Hasan.
Then Harris can beat Hassan.
Mehdi Hasan at MSNBC is a better example because he was on the air saying pretty much the damn same thing. And no, it didn't need to be Harris personally. It needed to be the party because at this time, again, we had Columbia going on, Harvard going on, UCLA going on. There were people illegally protesting and holding buildings. Many of them have been charged. The charges were dropped. Alvin Bragg dropped almost all the charges, I think, but 12 cases. Everyone else's charges got dropped. A bunch of people that were working with these people, no charges were even brought against them. Almost all of them got away with it. There's 2 people right now that were in Harvard that beat the shit out of a Jewish student, and they were facing assault charges, and people are trying to get those removed at Harvard off of the students. The fact that this was going on, it needed to be stood up to by the Democratic Party. And to Wick's point as well,
she was constantly talking about her support for Israel, going out and condemning anti-Semitism, and she was. I mean, what more was she supposed to go out
They
there?
condemned all the
Rafah.
camps. What did
Also
you
say-
want?
I really
don't go into
don't think,
Rafah.
I really don't think that just like condemning Hassan alone
condemning
would be enough.
anti-Semitism and not go into Rafah. These are two totally separate things.
You need to come out stronger for Israel to take those.
I honestly feel like even if she
registration's
didn't
huge.
condemn Hassan, I feel like people just wouldn't take it very seriously. I feel like even if you had the scapegoat, like just because Democrats aren't pushing that messaging well, even if she fucking kicked Hassan in the nuts, I just feel like the Democrats wouldn't be able to get people to believe her that she truly fucking actually.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to have that type of energy.
Can
I thought you were being a little bit more metaphorical when you said Hassan. I didn't realize you meant literally Hassan when I said
No,
base.
yeah.
Just to make that
Because-
correction.
wait, I want to piggyback off what Shenandoah said, because
as fun as
that
it would be.
like that's
Go ahead.
exactly what I'm talking about when in the sense of, yeah, like first of all, Wick, I don't doubt that I'm sure if you poll a lot of maybe independent to right-wing voters, you'd see certain people thought Kamala was, and I know this is true, people on the right thought she was too extreme, like she's too progressive, which is silly because if you look at her actual policies, she is not at all like too progressive. It's very, very, very like milk toast. However, it's because of the messaging machine that they're able to say, hey, you clearly aren't calling out these crazies. And the idea that you think this would work, I think is silly, because even if she did do that, which I don't think would have changed much, but even if she did, the messaging would not be, oh, hey, from the right, I guess Kamala isn't so crazy. I guess she isn't too progressive. It would be Kamala feigns outrage at the extreme left wing, knowing that her policies are still
She's
extreme,
virtue
right? Like
signaling.
it's all about this media machine
I
that's going to
disagree
be
with
able to
that.
spin it.
If I may
What
respond
I
to
would
I
that.
say this as somebody who's
Go-
really
Also,
Yeah,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
we've had these types of adjustments in Europe too, where for example, there's like it's really really big on immigration. It's a different issue, but like Geert Wilders, part of the reason he performed so well in the Dutch electorate isn't because Geert Wilders was like some election mastermind, is because once the entire electorate shifted to the right on immigration, and the general consensus was, I guess, the right were right on immigration. Well, if you're voting on immigration and the right are right on are the ones who are right on immigration, you go to the king of it. You go to the person who has always been talking about immigration, who's always been talking about this issue. So if the Democrats come out and say, you know what, actually, trans women aren't women, trans men aren't men. We don't care about this anymore. Pass whatever laws you want. You make them have to do this on ID and we completely jump on the Matt Walsh train. All that's gonna happen is like, oh, so the Republicans are right. Well, then they should be the one making policy on this. I don't think it's gonna lead to Democrats.
Right, Dylan.
out
That's
of
what
nowhere
Gavin
performing
Newsom.
like
That's what
that.
Gavin Newsom did, and is Gavin Newsom
Yeah.
polling
No,
well with
no.
moderates? Is
Yeah,
Gavin
and
That's
Newsom
not what
polling well
Gavin-
with
I agree
Dems?
with that.
Gavin
not-
Newsom came
no,
out
no, no,
and had a less
Okay.
than woke
No one
stance on
trusts
trans sports,
Gavin
right?
Newsom.
Right,
You guys are
exactly.
going
That's
far
what I'm
left,
saying.
far right here. The
No,
middle
but that's
ground,
who is
70%
Elizabeth
popularity.
Who's
70%
very
popularity
conservative.
for liberal values for trans people. Let people live how they want to live. 70% popularity. Saying that they need to be in the same spaces as women when they're in privately, that went too far. They needed to reel it back. And when
Right. And when
Oh, they
Gavin
do that
Newsom
in
agreed
3
with
months.
that,
Tyler,
Hold on.
you want Democrats to not be hypocrites and have values, but you also want them to switch every single position to what is like the median popular idea.
No, just
And
not go too
I
far.
honestly think
just
that like
want a
displaying
temperature
strength is
check
really
here.
important.
Just
especially
a
on left salient
temperature
ideas.
check.
That's an
Who
interesting
thinks
take.
that the Democrats, whoever is the face of the Democrats, whoever it may be, AOC, Josh Shapiro, whoever becomes kind of like the de facto leader of the charge for 2028, for 2026, etc.
Me.
Who thinks that they should call out the extremists on the Democratic side? Really?
Hold
So
on.
you don't
Hold on.
Depends who they
Yeah,
are.
hold on.
Depends who
I
they are.
all of them for
I
every
think
issue.
this is the problem, okay?
real quick, I'm going to interrupt Wick again. Shane, I absolutely agree. Trans rights should not depend on what the fucking polling is. If 100%, 99% of people said trans people shouldn't have rights, that doesn't mean we should, not support their rights. However, I understand the optics of maybe we shouldn't bring it up as much if it would hurt our chances to get in power and then give trans people those rights. But that's a different argument.
Someone asks a basic question like that, like, "Hey, are you willing to stand up against your extremists?" And people are like, it really doesn't sell the message that we're willing to like that we aren't an extremist party. It's a problem.
Well, first off, I'm not running for president.
Yeah,
And
we're gonna
second off,
need
when you
that.
say extremists, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what that means. Are we talking about
Right.
people who have politically unpopular positions? Or are you asking me, am I going to stand toe and toe with somebody who wants to bomb some sort of political event? Of course, I'm not
Right.
going to stand toe and toe with some bomber.
kinda
If that's
why I
your
was
question,
like,
it's a
"Yeah, it
really wild
depends."
question. But if you're asking me, like, am I going
Yeah.
to stand with somebody who wants to completely abolish the death penalty in all instances because he believes it's a sin against man or something, and therefore, then yeah, I'll stand toe and toe with that person because that's a value I generally agree with, whether it makes me extreme or not extreme. Maybe I'll stand toe and toe with somebody who like we should stand on our values and principles, because if we just look like flimsy flip floppers who are cheap and we just go where the polling
Rose,
goes,
elaborate.
then when
Why
the
am I
American
stupid?
people turn a certain way on an issue that's good, it's in our favor, it's within our values, we won't be there to receive them.
Mhm.
Let's go to Nina here real quick. I know you're trying
Yeah,
to
no,
get in.
that's basically what my question was going to be as well. It's like, what do you mean by extremists? Like, obviously, if people have more to the left views,
Like
like,
Tom Piper, give me
I
an example.
don't.
Can I piggyback off of that? Like, okay, so for
Well,
example, like,
go ahead.
sorry. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off completely. I didn't know you had more to say.
Oh, I
was
was
gonna
just
say,
saying,
like-
was going with what Dylan said. So yeah, you can go ahead.
No, that was fair. Actually, I just wanted like for fun. I was just gonna ask Wick, like, am I an extremist? Because like I'm somebody who like very
I don't know
often
you
is
enough.
That's fair. Like I was just gonna say, like I'm very often like very militantly anti-Trump. Like I think what he does is fucking horrible, and I'm like very, very open that like honestly I think it's treason and they should be fucking put on trial. Like I'm fucking awful about that. But also at the same time, like for a Democrat, like I'm kind of centrist in the Democratic Party, like center right. Like I'm not really like a socialist, you know?
I think that when I say extremists, I'm talking about Hassan and people like Hassan. I'm talking about Mike from PA and people like Mike from PA. I'm talking about that kind of wing of party who thinks it who have advocate the people who are firebombing Teslas, I should say.
Okay,
People who are shooting at Trump, right?
Can I
Can we
ask
name
you?
can we name an
right,
actual extremist
advocating
that
or making
matters? Wait,
jokes about
Wick, this is
that,
important.
right?
And I
Wick,
want to
this
come
is
back to
really
that in a
important.
second. That's,
You
go ahead.
have to name an extremist that's important. Like for instance, Luigi. That's a extremist that killed somebody who, did an instance of what people could describe as actual terrorism. Nobody knows who Mike from Couch is, okay? Nobody cares. What people care about would be an actual political extremist, like a bomber or a manifesto writer or some thought leader who said something crazy like all white people are the devil. That is like, for example, Luis Farrakhan, or something where you could point to some extreme, even though Luis Farrakhan is not somebody I would call like a leftist extremist. But my point is, you're supposed to be able to point to somebody who I think people know, and Mike from like these streamers nobody gives a fuck about.
Yeah, it'd
they
be
all
really
have to be, like,
weird
somewhat a part of the
if
Democratic
Kamala
constituency.
Harris
This is a
pulled out
microcosm.
Mike
That's
from
the issue.
PA.
Anyone that
hold
says
on,
racism
hold
equals
on.
power plus prejudice as an extremist.
Well, I also want to touch on.
Thank you, International Spying, for the $5. Kamala was a very bland candidate. It's actually more about showmanship than policy. Totally agree.
Is it feels like everything's manufactured. Like I see Gavin Newsom's podcast, and it seems to me like it's very like manufactured, right? But then you mentioned Hassan, who I think that he's I'll get to. Like I think he's basically just a speaking point for like the Dems, like right, like it's like one person removed. That's what it feels like. And I mean, maybe it's because he was the governor. That might be like some grace on that. But like with Hassan, he's very like organic. Like I believe Hassan believes what he thinks, right? Like if you watch like a Tim Pool, right? I believe Tim Pool is probably getting, if he got paid for Russia, he's probably believes what he's thinking. Or if I watch Joe Rogan, he's probably believes what he's thinking. It's like an organic thing.
Why'd you say if? It's definitely true.
Well, sure. If like whatever.
He
Like
got
my
paid by
point is,
Russia.
I mean the beliefs. Like my point is, it feels like these people all on the right, like are middle. They're like very like organic right now. Hassan, even though he's on the left, to me has that feel. Wouldn't it like it might be the opposite be true? Have her going on that and go like and maybe not alienating these people, going, oh, he's a crazy person. Maybe like having a conversation where, yeah, I think you're wrong, but I disagree. Let's have a convo about it, and then leaving. You don't think that could have maybe emboldened her to like a whole new market, as opposed to what you're saying?
You could have a moment where she looks like, oh wow, Harris is flipping out at this person who's actually acting quite polite in person, and she's like, it could be like uncouth to the voter, which isn't like a moral condemnation; it's just the electability question.
Yeah, and women also fight the crazy accusation all the time.
I'm willing to bet a not inconsiderate sum of money that would have never happened.
Well,
I
want to piggyback off of what
it's
Admiral
being
Gibbs is saying here, because look, if your idea that like if she went out and yelled at him for being anti-Semite would have won over votes or called out these extremists versus whatever, going on his podcast and somehow like indicating in some degree that these Palestinian protesters, a lot of which who stayed at home, might have a chance of some sort of like degree of changing policy once she got into office, or that just, hey, no matter what, I understand that you're upset about what we're doing right now, but look how much worse Trump is going to be. I think that at least I don't think is going to reach a lot of people, but way more than calling out Hassan specifically, especially for someone who is like already anti-electoral and probably isn't promoting a lot of his people to vote for her. I think that at the very least, you look at Joe Rogan and when Bernie went on, and it's like, hey, like people who thought this guy was a crazy socialist and they get to hear him talk in a unscripted fashion for 3 hours, say, wait, maybe this guy's, yeah, exactly, like Pete. Maybe this guy at the very least is reasonable and I might be able to relate to him in the same way that, yeah, if Bernie went on and just said, oh, Joe Rogan, you're an extremist, you're a lint rolling brain dead chimp, like that's not going to do shit. Like it's going to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I piggyback off the piggyback? I also think that whether you hate Hassan or whatever, he does tend to want to appeal to moderates, because whether you think that's a funnel into being more extreme, whatever. The thing is, he would be very polite to her, and he would definitely mask on very much with her, and I think that absolutely would have helped her campaign.
I 100% guarantee you that if she was seen as cozying up to Hassan Piker, she would have lost by even further. It wouldn't have just
I don't think
been
people
2% in
know.
Pennsylvania,
But
it
who
would have
would
been
you be
10% in
losing?
Pennsylvania.
Who would she be losing?
She would be losing anyone who sees as a problem that the Democratic, who suspects that, maybe Kamala
Get that
isn't
guy
telling
outta
me the
here.
truth that she's not an extremist.
But if
Maybe
she's going on-
lying to me, right?
Maybe
Yeah,
she
but
is
I mean,
Hamas,
show.
Harris.
on the flip
is what
side, you
voters
saw
thought.
like you saw Trump go on
Didn't
Aiden
the
Ross.
Jews overwhelmingly vote for Harris? Like, isn't that how that goes in the polling results? Like, didn't the
don't
Jews
have
overwhelmingly vote for
data, but I
Harris?
think that less Jews voted for Harris than voted for Biden. She lost.
Yeah, but that's
Joe Biden.
that's
Well,
almost
well,
every
that's just
demographic
kind of the
except
entire-
LGBT.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
y'all brought
literally.
you brought up the polls though again, right? Y'all keep bringing up the polls. Tyler especially has done this. Has brought up the polls in a few minutes. I think like a big criticism from the right was the polls are all wrong, right? And like I felt like how much do y'all think biased polling has played into this? I'll give you an anecdotal example. I got a call here in San Antonio, and I was getting called, and they were asking me the questions. I answered all the questions, and then at the end, they're like, "Well, what is your ethnicity?" I'm like Hispanic. They're like, what party did you vote for?" I was like Republican. They're like, and what do you identify as? Like, I was like white Hispanic. They're like, oh, okay. Well, we already have too many white Hispanic Republican voters in this area, and I'm like, in this area, I'm probably all of them. You know, like because it's San Antonio, and so I'm like hearing this, and I feel like maybe these are like polls where there's
Jews
variables wrapped out.
overwhelmingly voted
Well, how
for
much do you
Harris.
think individual like polling, like the polling wasn't accurate? What do you think we think happened here? Like, why were they? Because y'all seem to rely on the polls a lot more than the Republicans.
Polling was great.
No, wait, what's wrong with the polling? Oh, first of all, speaking of polls, the Jews voted overwhelmingly for Kamala. It was like a really
Yeah.
high. So I think going out and calling out anti-Semitism was
solid
not
number.
what
It was
she
only
lacked.
in what we're talking about was only
Mhm.
anecdotally within New York and Pennsylvania. Generally, it wasn't nationwide.
Yeah, but in terms
Pennsylvania,
of
the state that was keystone to us winning. Yes,
Yeah, but
that's
it wasn't
a problem.
nationwide. It wasn't
And here's
nationwide.
the thing, again, there's a few things that are at play here. No one single issue was going to change this because it was a
Sure.
multivariate problem where multiple points of failure, where none of it was going to you can't just fix one, you can't just plug one hole because there's leaks all over. It was like Swiss cheese of problems.
I don't
where
start with this
you had
associate's degree
velocities
shit with me,
coming in,
Wick.
right?
It's
But-
everything's fucking multivariate. Fucking.
but what I'm trying to say here is that one of the problems that Harris has, and the Democrats still have, is that they are seen as a party that has that plays footsies with extremists, that doesn't police its own, that allows
with
the
who?
crazies to take the mic.
with who?
Right,
Right.
with moderates, with moderates,
Right.
not
And
No,
why?
you know
why-
what?
But why
They're
are
I
they?
get
left
what you're
it.
saying. Wick.
But are they?
I get
seeing
what
that-
you're saying.
But what I'm asking
We
is,
she should also condemn President Sunday.
Well, you know what? President Sunday, Hassan has millions of viewers. Let's be clear, right? Sunday has tens of viewers.
No,
okay.
what
But
we're
no,
getting at, Wick, is
I would
why do
personally
they
like
believe
them to
that? Why do they
that would've
believe
been
that?
funny.
What did Kamala do that indicates that she is siding with extremists? And what,
Can you
like,
can you name an extremist group she called out within the Democratic Party?
do you answer my question, which is, what did she do to
She-
indicate that she's siding with them? That she is too extreme?
Not calling out the extremist groups in the Democratic Party,
Like who? Hassan?
like Hassan Piker.
So,
Like,
so you
Chris
wait, hold on, wait.
has-
No, wait. I need to
has-
stick on this. I need to stick
Yeah,
on
that's
this.
why I
Wick,
voted
do you
for Trump.
do you think that if I ask the average Republican voter, they will say, I think Kamala Harris is extreme because she did not call out my favorite Twitch streamer, Hassan
She's going
Piker,
to
who
say
I
that.
know,
No,
who
what
I
she will
know
say-
who that
what she
is.
will
I know
say-
who that is,
what
and it's
she will
because
say-
she didn't call him out.
No, what they will say is, I think that Kamala Harris is lying about being a moderate. I think
Okay.
that she has extreme views. I think she has
Right.
extreme views
Uh-huh.
when it comes to Jewish people, with extreme
Okay.
views like the Columbia protesters,
Right.
extreme views like all these people. What Hassan
Okay.
is, it's a symbol.
Sure.
He's a stand-in. It doesn't have to be Hassan. It could be someone else. It could be pick a
Who-
celebrity. That's
So
bigger.
this is why
Fair
I'm
enough,
asking, though,
but it
is
has to
because
be
it's
someone who's representative of a group, and they won't use the term Hassan. You guys
Wait.
keep retreating to this.
Why
this
don't
term.
just-
No.
Okay,
Wait,
here's-
Dylan,
If-
please.
if you
Dylan, I have
just
to respond to
wait-
this. Dylan, please.
Okay.
It's the
Oh,
problem.
they hit you with the
the
bad
problem-
faith, Wick?
The problem is not she didn't call it Hassan specifically, or she did not call out these people that Hassan represents. The problem is that the media is able to drive this narrative that she is extreme because she sides with these things. And then when you look at what she says and what she does, this is just not materially represented. So why at all would calling out these people have changed anyone's mind if they can just lie about it again? That's the whole point.
I
It's
got that.
Because it would have made the lie harder to sell.
Dude,
When
they're
they-
lying
Gonna
about
say
blatant
it. They're gonna
reality
lie
now.
about
Who
you
cares?
anyways.
That matters. There's a reason why some lies take hold and stick, and others do not.
Yeah,
It becomes
cats and dogs.
how
That
credible.
stuck. That was literally just completely
How
false. Like, and
credible
that drove votes. Like, I don't see what you think is gonna happen. Like, this is.
Hold on. How many
Wait,
votes?
Wait, do you think that she should have thrown trans people just completely under the bus, been like, all trans
Have
people
I
are
said-
fucking
have I said
crazy?
trans?
No, I'm using it as an example. I'm using it as an obviously I don't think this is your opinion. I'm just asking you. Like, if you're talking about capitulating to them just like lying about your position, like
Hold
should
on.
they have done
I'm
that or
doing the
what?
opposite of saying
Because I just think it's an
capitulating about them
unwinnable
lying to the
battle. I think it's an
I'm
absolutely
saying
unwinnable
counter
battle.
that lie by showing an example of you being willing to call out and fight extremism on your side.
Right, and we said, okay,
He
what
was not able to
extremist?
do
And then you
that,
said
so
Hassan
she had no
Piker or the
defense
Columbia
against that
protesters.
lie.
And then we
Tyler,
showed that she was not being anti-Semitic, and actually Jews overwhelmingly supported her. So, one, I don't think the data
Less
supports you
Jews
here.
supported
Luke.
her than supported Biden. She
Unless
lost
everyone except
that
LGBT
vote.
did.
She got
and
less
none-
votes than he did, bro.
Did she
Like, what do you
lose
mean?
them at a higher
Well,
rate than the
yeah,
rest of them?
percentage.
let's go to-
Percentage. I'm not talking total. I'm talking percentage.
Tyler, go ahead.
All right, just because I didn't want to yell over anybody here. Wickets again, pretty right here. So if you look at this, what Soy Pill's talking about is the size of the parties and what the parties look like. But since the year 2022, the Republicans have had the party advantage, according to Gallup, which again was in my citation document. You all could have read. And at one year, they were up
I did
3
read it.
points. Yeah, 2023, they were up 3 points. This shows that their policies were unpopular. Not the messaging they were doing in the last 3 months. Not Kamala Harris, who had 160 plus bills in her years in the Senate, who was the number 3 and the number 1 most progressive senator the 2 years she was in the Senate, who had a big track record, and again, she was painted during the election as this, who had a big track record of running on Smart on Crime, wrote an entire book about it, led her time as the DA about it, push as a senator for it, push equity policy. An extremist isn't a single person here. An extremist is extremist views. Anyone that says racism is power plus prejudice is an extremist. That is the anti-white movement people are talking about that was embraced by the party. It's not the party itself, it's these academic movements.
Anti-white movement people are
Yes.
talking about?
Yes.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier.
I didn't
talking
hear
about
about that during the election.
Yeah,
I heard
I
about the
definitely didn't hear
economy.
No, it came up in the panel like a little bit ago. Someone brought
Right,
it up
but
in
like
the meeting.
who's like the people voting on this
Yeah.
are
You might
not
not have been hearing that.
Democrats who sit out. The people voting on this are the people who like apparently think this is a huge issue. That I mean, I haven't heard anyone say that since like 2018. And as much as I disagree with that concept, it's like this is not what Kamala is running on. And it's like, should she have to come out and say that? Oh, actually, black people can be racist. Do you think that was what made it so that she didn't win because she didn't call out
No.
people in academia? That's
No,
what I'm saying. It's like who cares? Like
Well,
who
I'll give you
cares?
one
And
example.
the answer to who cares is apparently people on the right who get these like information bubbles and they're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Kamala Harris is anti-white male. Like
And what
Advocate said,
happens
he has
is-
friends that thought that,
Yeah,
which I think is
and what
ridiculous.
happens is
Not
both
because they're
sides get a chance to
stupid.
speak, and then the people that don't agree with either yet listen to both sides, and they say, you know what? Trump is closer to reality than Kamala Harris on these issues. And maybe she's not talking about him now, but she has a long career that she's just stopped talking about him 6 months ago. So
Yeah,
like,
sorry, I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say, like, I guess what's just so frustrating to me is like, fucking Republican congressmen could say some of the most wild shit I've ever heard in my entire life that I would get banned off Twitch if I tried to repeat it here. But like, just some random Twitch stream.
Hey, Josiah, Pondering Politics, thank you for the $10. I am indeed getting him, and I think I'm coming on your show on Wednesday, so thank you.
For that is just like the media environment is busted. I was gonna ask you at the beginning, Wick, is like, okay, you said that the reason that the Republicans don't get called out on much for their lying is because they have fully embraced their extremists.
Yes.
I mean, like, okay, this is a somewhat sarcastic question, but it actually has a point. Is like, do you then think that like the fucking Democrats should just embrace their extremists too? I don't think that. I don't think that's a good idea. But it sounds like if that's the reason and not the media environment, then like the thing to do for Democrats to get themselves elected is to just drop the act and be fucking extreme. But
Well,
I
this
think it's
is-
the information
We
environment.
need like an
answer your question.
NPR style Proud Boy movement.
Yeah.
I can answer
The
your
Pride
question.
Boys, the Pride
Yeah,
Boys,
dude.
let's do it.
Give me
Yeah,
fucking
there you
David
go.
George, the
Am I
Pride
taking
Boy,
it?
the
Bear with
Pride
me.
Boy.
Right, so we got multiple issues at play here, right? One of the reasons a lot of MAGA and a lot of people embraced MAGAism was a response to what they felt was.
Hey,
and
Rosari,
again, you
I
can argue
can't make
whether
the
this
name
is true
stick
or
on
not.
Discord.
What they felt was the rising extremism that was taking over the left. And they we have to fight this. We have to fight fire with fire. And so now I see the same thing happening. Like, oh, and then Trump got elected in 2016, and the Democrats did the same thing. They're like, look, the rising extremism is over here. We have to embrace our own extremists. It's called reciprocal radicalization. It's a process that happens in a lot of fields, a lot of times,
Wait,
and it just
you think the
Can I tell
Dems
you a really
embraced
interesting
extremists in
example?
2020?
I got to actually
Yeah.
finish the point before
Okay.
you understand exactly why I'm saying this, right?
Okay.
So give me a moment, please, for the love of God. Okay.
Okay.
So when we have this situation, right, that's going on, there are a growing group of the electorate in America who wants this to stop. They don't want this. They don't like this. They're holding their nose and voting for whoever they think will stop the extremism, right? And they're trying. It's a growing at this point, right? I don't know if it'll continue to grow, but at this point, I think it is. One of the party, I think, that rejects its extremists first and hardest, I think, is setting itself up for generational wins. And I want that to be the Democrats. They have to be able, moderates have to be able to tell the Democrats and the Republicans apart. And it became much harder for them to do so. And we scoff at that as pundits and things like that who watch these news every day. But for normies, it became very, very hard. Well, why should I care who wins, whether it's Harris or Trump? Both are the party of extremists. My life's not gonna be any better or worse either way.
Well, is that not a
Foolish?
messaging
Yeah.
issue? Do you think
Yeah.
that those are the same thing?
Right.
Do you think the
I
parties are the
actually-
same?
I
I
also want to
agree with you with the
interpretation
messaging
a little
issue.
bit.
And my
Okay.
again, my prescription to solve this messaging issue is to denounce and expunge the extremists publicly,
But
loudly, and meanly.
But Wick, if you look at the polling data is not, I mean, for the right wing, sure, that Kamala is too radical, she's too they, them. But if you look at like a lot of the people who sat this election out, which again, I think if you look at the numbers, it's 20 million fewer votes for Kamala versus like the few million that the Republican Party gets. It's not, oh, we thought Kamala was too extreme. It's, hey, I don't feel seen by this. It wasn't, oh, she's too pro-progressive, she's too pro-Israel Gaza. It was, hey, Kamala is not addressing the working vote, she's not addressing healthcare prices, she's not addressing the economy in a way that I think is substantially going to be different. And I don't think this is in any way means that if she had come out and been like, hey everyone, just so you know, I'm not a crazy radical socialist. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of already what they did. That was the whole campaign. It was, hey, I'm just like Biden, the guy who, I don't know why you said that, like, there's this reciprocal extremism. Biden's whole thing was, let's return to normalcy, let's get back to the middle, let's go back to the status quo. And she kind of, agreed with that. Is like, hey, I'm not going to do anything substantially different, maybe I'll be a little more left. But there was not this push from her campaign to go super far left. Now, yeah, sure, maybe she didn't denounce ultra super far lefties constantly, and I just don't think that would have made a difference. It's clearly these people who don't feel heard, not that they're like, she's too crazy, although that is what the right wing was going to vote for regardless. So
Yeah, I think we
Hey,
can split the
actually-
difference
wait.
here.
I'm sorry. Could I
if you
actually
don't
really
mind.
quickly just get in? Okay, fine.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
It's actually,
life.
it's really fast. I was just going to say that, actually, Soypal, I wanted to build off your point. Did you actually know that there was an exit poll after this election that showed that voters tended to believe that Kamala was actually closer to the center than Trump was, but just this election, they were feeling more center-right. So they were, like, relatively closer to Trump, but they felt that Kamala was less extreme. There is actually a poll on it. I'll
Here's the
actually
thing.
link it
No, I
afterwards.
agree with that. That's probably true. But the exit polls poll people who vote. We're talking, and Soypill's point is a lot of people stayed home and did not vote. So that would not be reflected within the exit polls.
Let's go to Nina here. Go ahead.
Right, yeah, just split the difference here with I think with the messaging and also with like understanding that we should do more to, like, I guess not necessarily, I don't want to say that we should like condemn the extremists, because I don't think that's going to get anywhere. But I think one of the big issues here also is that we don't have anything really to work towards. And I think that you develop these extremists in your party because they are so wanting to have something to, like, some message to be kind of like to advocate for, that they
absorb
kind of
them.
get a little mixed up. You know what I mean? So I think that, again, when it comes to, it's both a messaging problem, and the reason why these extremists tend to crop up is because they tend to attach to an extremist voice because they're at least advocating for something. You know what I mean? Like, again, that goes to the status quo thing, right? Like, when you're advocating for something that's a message, that's why Bernie Sanders generally has been so popular, because he's not perfect, but he's got a message and people want to rally behind it.
That's what I meant earlier, by the way, when I was comparing like Newsom to those other ones, right? Newsom seems like he's gonna just parrot your like middle America, your like middle
And
ground,
no one likes
get
Newsom.
talking points, right?
Newsom's
But like
trash.
versus like Hassan or whatever, he's going out there and he's saying these are my crazy stances. I stand by them, right? Like I think that's kind of the point that I was making earlier with what you put it a little more.
Kirsten
eloquently.
Sinema's the same way as Newsom. They blow with the political wind. You could always tell where the party's going based on what they're campaigning on for their current campaign. And Kirsten Sinema was big on border security this time around.
Right, exactly. That's what I was worried about earlier. That's what I was saying earlier, is that, like, I think actually having some stable positions is legitimately important for
You
Democrats.
guys want to get into that issue? Because that was
Sure.
Biden's largest unforced error. We were gaslight about it for 3 years. AOC went on the news multiple
Sounds
times.
like you
Said it was
wanted to do it.
says it was a right-wing lie. And then 9 months before the election, a bill that would only reverse the changes that Biden made through executive order came out. And all he had to do was reverse his own executive orders to fix it, which he ended up doing anyways.
I don't know. Like Biden on immigration, he actually deported a lot of people. Like
Most
we
of them were at
forget
the border.
about,
ICE deportations
especially with the Title 42 deportations. I think it was Title 42. I could be wrong with
Look,
the numbers.
Tyler
ICE
just threw the
deportations are a
giantest
COVID thing.
worm into a pond, and you just took a big bite of it. By the way, he really
That's
wants to
another
talk
issue.
about
I think she
this.
brought it up. She brought it up. I just doubled down on it. I did not. It's just it was
But
the
the,
number one
like-
election issue according to 2 exit polls.
I understand, but I don't think
Virgo,
that,
thank you for the $5.
Like I heard much.
Don't know
about
if anyone has said this, but thank you for
immigration
having a woman, femme
um,
presenting woman.
They shipped him.
This is a
So they
woman,
shipped
I'm
him
pretty
until
places.
sure.
before the
Yeah.
election.
But
That's
also,
when a lot of
That's
people
I don't get to
Right.
choose who's on this. This is
Pounding
Gibbs,
that.
and we
Yeah,
have
but
another
there was a
one.
3-point
Charlie
gap
had to
between
cancel
people
last
that side
minute.
with Republicans and people that side with Democrats, and Democrats knew they were in for an ass whooping in the election. They completely shifted their narrative. Joe Biden ran on asylees surging the border, and one of the first things he did in office was lower the criteria you need to apply for asylum. We saw when Obama did that in 2009 through an order that he gave to the DHS, that fraud went up almost 10 times what it was at the moment. It was allowing fraud.
Well-
Trump closed that loophole. Biden reopened that loophole and then said we need a new bill that would put catch and release into law. And if you don't pass this new bill, there's nothing we can do. Trump comes in and does it without the bill or any more money. So
Honest question, I'm missing the relevancy.
Well, this brings back to like
gaslighting.
I can make it really relevant, right? This comes back to the cats and dogs thing, right? He like I know that once again that was pretty hyperbolic, right? Like
You
they
just
weren't
say
actually
lie.
eating cats and dogs, but or outright lie, whatever. But it does bring attention to this issue, and all of a sudden now all these Republicans are talking about, hey, they actually changed the app system for asylum seekers. We should look into this, yada yada. And now it's a talking point. I don't feel like Kamala ever had. Like, even though it was a bad moment, it ended up kind of like he could spin it into a win. Versus, like, I don't know that Kamala ever had that. Because I don't know. Like, he's like straight from the hip. Like, I don't know. Is that the problem? Like, we don't have. Is everybody too formal now in the internet age of the internet, the age of the like 30-second TikTok? Like, I don't know. What do y'all's thoughts?
Well,
here?
no, I think that plays totally into what I'm saying, which is like, yeah, it doesn't
same.
matter if you, just let them get away with this lie or whatever, if you're going to then let them shape the narrative on what your immigration policy is. Like, what they should have been doing, and I mean, Tyler, you can argue about the effectiveness of that bill or whatever. They should have been hammering in that, hey, Trump, like, we tried to do something about this and Trump canceled it. And I think the Republican narrative on that could have easily been, hey, we want this canceled. We think this will just, sway voters a little bit, but Trump's going to be the real solution. But they didn't. They just said, actually, no, that's totally made up. And no one ever pressed them on it. No one ever tripled down on these questions in the media. Like, hey, you got this border bill killed, didn't you? Why did you do that? They just are really, really bad at shaping this. And it's like the Republicans, I'm sorry, they're just fucking better at media spinning and getting away with all this stuff. And like Democrats suck at it.
I agree. And
With the bill was Biden's executive orders that he put into place in February in 2021. I will link you the exact executive order.
No, I know what you're talking about. He got rid of the Remain in Mexico, right?
And 3 years and 2 months later, he asked Congress to write a bill to close the loophole that his executive order opened and tried to shift the burden to the GOP after 2-3 years of saying there was no border crisis. I can give you Democrats going on the news, multiple of them, surrogates of the Biden administration going on the news, multiple of them. All sorts of people saying there is no border crisis. It's right-wing racism. And then as soon as it became a problem, hell yeah, there's a border crisis, and Donald Trump's the reason why. It's gaslighting.
So just to be
Wait, I'm not
clear,
even disagreeing.
Biden was willing to
Yeah.
Biden was willing to give up something that he started, like conditional on the cooperation of Republicans, and like what? I mean that sounds like
Did he
just
say
regular
that?
negotiation.
Did you guys know that?
Hold on,
I
let
have
us-
to tell you that
No, I knew
from
that.
research.
Yeah.
Biden didn't say that. Nobody in the administration said that. They didn't say we're undoing our policy. They just silently did it. Once the bill didn't pass, he went back and unreverted his own executive order.
But I'm just curious how this matters. Like, I guess, like, okay, no, I'm being serious. I just don't understand because,
It's
like, my understanding of what you just told me is like Biden passed something and then he says to Republicans, "Hey, I'll do like a horse trade with you on a bill. Like, if you guys help, like,
I think ran on something,
like that's just regular politics.
Passed something. It was extremely
And
unpopular.
then the
and
Republicans said,
passed
"No, we're not
it.
going to horse trade on this thing that would help."
Yeah.
Well, so let me try to reiterate. I think maybe your points get lost a little here, Tyler. Let me try to So what I think he's trying to say is right. Okay, here's the facts. Right, there's certain set of facts. That's the undisputed facts, and then it was presented to the public a certain way that seemed were like just straight up gaslighting. Basically, they were just being lied to, and people like saw through it because the facts were pretty basic. Like you didn't have to be a political scientist to understand. Okay, he did this, then he reversed it. This is clearly his fault, kind of thing. But the messaging was like suddenly it was somebody else's fault, right? And it seems dishonest. Like it seemed like a mass overall gaslighting.
Well,
to maybe. And I think
Well,
a lot of moderates
I want to
saw
jump in here, Gibbs,
that.
because
Yeah,
it wasn't.
No, that's the point I think he's trying to make.
And I understand that, Tyler. The idea of like, well, you caused this problem. How do we get out of it? And like maybe you could. I think there's merit to saying, oh, did they not acknowledge it, right? Like to the degree it was a crisis. Yeah, there's millions of people there, but like to the degree that the Republicans were presenting this as like, yeah, there's tens of thousands, if not millions, of illegal immigrants coming in. They're all committing crime. This is the worst thing ever. Our cities are on fire. Like this is the narrative from the right, and that's why this was such a big issue with people. To the degree to which it actually affected people, I think is much less so. And specifically, it's silly because if you look and if Biden comes out and says, hey, this was a mistake, this executive order, the Remain in Mexico policy, we tried to get rid of it because it was causing this conflict and stuff in Mexico, and we thought maybe this was inhumane, but it caused this big surge at the border. Well, now I'm trying to solve it, and this guy's not letting me solve it. We have bipartisan agreement between two parties to say, hey, we can both reverse this and put a bunch more money into process asylees quicker, to do XYZ thing. And they didn't let them do that. And I think the message, the failure to call out Trump and say Trump is making sure that we are not able to solve this problem that we have bipartisan agreement on, that was way overshadowed by, hey, look, there's so many illegals, they're everywhere, they're burning people on trains.
Because that would have been gaslighting.
It's not gaslighting.
Immigration was a losing,
I'll tell you why.
issue for Democrats in the 2024 election. I'll just stipulate to that and agree with you. Yes, it was a losing issue for multiple reasons, messaging partly because we did fuck up on that. It's just true. But here's the deal. I think that when it comes to the public's perception, because remember the topic is why are Democrats losing, right? One of the reasons the Democrats lost and are losing is because they were seen as gaslighting, as you guys were saying, as I think Gibbs was saying. And I think that this is, again, the reason it gives me hope, as I said in my opening statement, is because people are seeing that, oh, Trump's lying too. Trump's incapable of doing this and fixing this problem. And that's why his numbers on immigration and approval ratings on immigration are tanking from when he took office. They're tanking. It's because people are seeing more and more how he's handling the deportations, and they're like, I don't want this. I don't want anything to do with this. This is crazy. And I think that people are fleeing from this. Now, again, he could reverse course. There's still time for him to reverse course. Will he? That's the question. If he wanted, like, for example, the stipend program that he recently if he had started with that, I think he'd still be up 20 points on immigration.
I love when Wick has only ever read a word. He used to say stimmy instead of stymie, and he just said stipend. It always makes me giggle a little bit.
Right? That's not the thing we want. And I think that, like, the same problem that Democrats had in the last election, the Republicans are going to have in the coming elections. And it's going to be worse because here's the deal. Trump can't govern. He's proven incapable. He cannot fix any of the problems.
Wick, I agree with you.
He had G.A. Vance to disarm that, to diffuse that, to try to get that toned down. Didn't work.
But Wick,
at all.
Wick, what you're saying is true, and the idea of this, like, oh, Trump is polling numbers are dropping, and the reason that's happening right now is, one, I think when the material conditions start affecting people and they see, oh, tariffs make my life worse. Oh, my family is getting deported. Yeah, or I get fired by Doge, all these hundreds of thousands of layoffs. They're like, wait, this fucking sucks. So it doesn't matter, how much he lies if they believe him. But as soon as they see that it's not true, it doesn't matter because now it's like, oh, okay, like I'm materially affected by this. But two, I think the media has actually at least tried and is doing a better job of saying, hey, look, this guy's getting deported without due process. This is fucking insane. And that is causing, you see in these like Republican town halls, people are like, hey, I don't think this should be happening. When are you going to go bring that guy back? Like that is part of the messaging problem. But so that is kind of like a two factor thing where, yeah, material conditions are going to matter. And I think people just weren't happy with, during the Biden years, partially because of COVID, but for other reasons. And if the same things happens with Trump and we're able to stick to the messaging, that's actually going to be how we win that election. So
I wasn't calling soy pill a gaslight. I just want to clarify because I didn't get cut off there. I wasn't calling soy pill a gaslight. I was saying that the narrative
you
he
were
was
calling
prescribing.
Me that. You were calling me that.
The narrative you were
actually said
prescribing.
that
You and Shenandoah are wonderful gentlemen. I would never say anything.
Called you a bitch too, I hear.
I wouldn't. I said the narrative you were prescribing them to use would have been gaslighting, and we'd have to. The Senate bill had poison pills in it. They had things like stantifying catch and release into law, allowing Republicans to stop getting rid of it when they took power. So stay in Mexico would have been illegal. They would have forced catch and release on the president. There was also a provision in there that the emergency powers to close the border, there was about a non-emergency version of it that Biden was going to do. They agreed, I think, about 5,000 people a day coming over. They were going to do it. That was a power the president had the entire time. This bill would have taken that power away from the president, but only after 18 months after this bill's passed. So basically, once Biden left office, this power was stripped away from the president. It also had money for Palestine in it and all sorts of other shit. The House at the time passed H.R. 2. This is the House's counteroffer. And usually how this goes is the House gets a bill, the Senate gets a bill, and they negotiate. Mike Johnson was held out of negotiations, and the Senate said they weren't even going to look at H.R. 2. You just have to pass this. Mike Johnson said this is dead on arrival because they would not let us have input on it. So they poison-pilled that bill intentionally just to have a narrative against Trump, and nobody believed it.
Would you say poison?
Do you think that the average person knew about that?
Not all the details. All they get to see at the end is, well, this immigration
do you think that
doesn't exist.
I want to.
The number
you
one
seriously
issue.
think that impacted the election?
Yes.
I want to come back kind of what to
the number one issue on exit polls.
Well, soy pill was just saying. I don't know how exactly. You kind of got lost there, but like, okay. So on one hand, we have like the Dem leadership seems to be just dying, right? Like in the polling right now. Obviously, like Chuck Schumer's like 17%, and then we look at some of these things, like all this thing with the immigration and yada yada. Like, how do you see it going forward? Because I know y'all like, oh, we're losing the Republicans are like losing their moderates, but I think with like things like the Garcia thing, for example, right? He's kind of pandering to his base because he thinks the moderates aren't going to be that involved in the midterms. The guy that got
Garcia, the
regular Garcia. Right, yeah. So
you said he's pinning to his base.
You mean
Trump is
doing that
Trump
is him pinning.
I was looking at
Bruno Garcia is campaigning in the El Salvador.
He's Trump. He's like, but no. So I'm like saying my bird's eye view. This is kind of what I'm seeing, right? So it seems like he's pandering to his base, and like all the people are like, yeah, that's what I voted for. Those also be probably in my mind the same people that'll show up midterms. Versus with Dems right now, it seems even though y'all are like pointing to these things, there doesn't seem like there's a plan. Like even in here, we all been kind of like amongst yourselves figuring that out and debating. It doesn't seem like there's a plan, and y'all's current leadership is at like 17%. Like Schumer's awful. So
because they don't have a plan.
Because there's no plan. Who's going to lead? Like, what do y'all see? What do y'all see going forward? Yeah, what do y'all see as the light?
Here's the deal. We need a plan.
What are these predictions?
That's absolutely true. One of the things that people are mad, Democrats are mad at the Democrats right now, is because they don't seem to have any effect.
FD, how's it going, dude? Get in here. Help me out. White people debate over. True.
Right? Like, I think that they're trying a lot of different approaches. Like, I've been seeing a lot of like people in the Democrats like that I've never heard of before that are going on like a bunch of different shows and stuff like that, like trying to get their message out there. And I think that
guys, it's not racist if it's true. White people made it happen, all right? They voted for Trump. We got to get rid of all the whites. We're going to take Bernie Sanders. We're going to take them all out in the field. And we're going to make them all brown. Okay.
Figure out which messaging resonated with people and stuff like that. Like,
see you, buddy. Have fun.
Right. Of having a primary. So I think that we're kind of doing that right now, but I understand the frustration, of course. But
now is the time to be clear to be doing this, to have this fight when we don't have elections coming up right around the corner. We have to make sure to figure out as a party what we want to do. I know what I would advocate for. I think that one of the biggest problems that Democrats have is they lack genuineness. Like people see them as
that's kind of what I was saying.
I mean, yeah, I think
come off a little too polished.
Not even
they
kidding.
see them
it's a big
as
part.
someone who's been focus grouped to death. We need people to go out and I'm saying this slightly hyperbolically, but only slightly. They need to start going out and calling people retards.
Hey,
Right?
can't
Yeah.
steal my
Yeah, no.
point. That's my
Hey,
point.
Yeah, that's also
They
my
need to
point.
start
But
going
it's kind of
out
more his.
and just being more human. They need to be
Yeah, Jasmine
someone
Croc with the
that-
Hot
They don't
Wheels.
Yeah.
need. They need to push back against like the fucking messaging machine, right? They need to just be like, I'm not gonna say that shit. That's
yes,
bullshit.
but not yet.
Josh Shapiro
Yeah.
is who I would pick. Like he's my guy. I live in
FD,
Pennsylvania.
you gotta
full
start it.
disclosure, right? I'm biased, but Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania has really good approval from both the left and the right. Obviously, the right likes him less, but he's still a lot of people I know who voted for Trump also voted for Shapiro. Right? They like what he's doing here. They like how he's getting things done. He doesn't get super involved in the culture war shit. All he does is stick to the bread and butter issues, the things that he thinks are important for his state and his constituency. And I think that that's the path going forward. The future of a successful Democratic Party lies in the Northeast, not in the West Coast.
Whitmer or Fetterman's my pick, but generally I agree with you. I just think they
No,
don't
Fetterman.
need to do this
Fetterman.
right now. Not right now. They need to do this. They have a higher their base right now is higher propensity voters that are going to come out more likely for special elections and off-year elections. They need to spend the next year and a half being this extremist party, pushing those people out to those elections, and then as soon as the midterms are over, then they need to pivot back to the center in the way you're suggesting. That's the smartest political move.
Honestly, I think the entire reason that people like Schumer are just so extremely low in the polls is, as we've already said, that they don't really have a plan. But I would double that plan.
I agree, FD. I love Wick, but as soon as every time I think we're aligned, he'll just come out and say like the complete opposite like approach that I would otherwise have, and it's very frustrating. But love him to death.
Election, because they sort of feel like their party is like kind of fucking weak and like doesn't actually fight.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and it's like even again, they don't have to be socialists
too soy,
necessarily
if
to do
you
that,
will.
but they are too. He said the thing. He said his name. I can't believe it. That was the titular line. But anyway, yeah, basically, yeah, he needs. I honestly think that like the main reason Schumer and co are just like so extremely unpopular is they just need to be fucking. Go for it, man. Honestly, and I can't like name any specific person right off the bat right now. I'd have to go look, but. Yeah, I would love to see a fighter. I really, really would.
I'd really like to see AOC as party lead. Like, I don't necessarily think that she's got like
Really?
president status, but I absolutely could see her like, like House Speaker and or like party lead type position, like taking over.
Democrat
Hold
senator.
up.
That's about as far as she's
What
gonna
about you, Joe? What do you think? What do you think they need to do? Who should they put forward?
Who we should put forward? I don't think it should be Josh Shapiro. I don't think it should be.
Just stop thinking for the $5. Trump, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Biden, then you ain't white. Oh, I wonder what he would say. Soy Pill is the edgelord we need. Tyler's the edgelord we deserve. Oh, they don't deserve me? Oh, that we deserve. Okay, I see. Thank you, FD. I'm the edgelord in the night.
Working class, even though he's a billionaire. Just you can run somebody who has working class roots. It's one of the most favorable portions of Biden's personality was the fact that he doesn't have extremely.
Oh, and also FD, I don't know, and this is me promoting FD, but he has a Joker-fied video where he has a Joker face. I love that thumbnail. I forgot to reach out and tell you, but now that you're listening, great thumbnail.
The area that I'm from Maryland. I have family in Delaware, and that's at least the image that they had of him, and that led to him doing okay in this region of the country. And I'm not saying that Biden is like we need to do everything Biden did, but what I'm saying is we need to run somebody that can present in that manner. And I think John Fetterman can present in that manner when it comes to being working class. But I think as of recent, I just don't know if he is focusing on the issues that we need to be in order to transform the country.
He's
I really
focusing
don't.
on getting his wife killed by speeding on the highway, apparently. I don't think
Oh,
he's
that was a
particularly
hit
good.
piece. Come
That was
on.
a hit piece?
It was a hit piece.
Did he or did he not do it?
He did it, but it was a hit piece.
He did.
FD, you're not getting him confused.
Fast, dog. You should see me drive.
I guarantee you, FD, you don't like Tyler, even if you've never met this man.
I will say, like, he is also just having
Ableist.
trouble collaborating with other Democrats, which is like one of the reasons I was always like a little bit skeptical of Bernie, is that like I wasn't sure if he was able to play ball with the rest of his party, which can make things really hard. Like even say Bernie's good or bad, that's just like a fucking.
I don't like this.
Yeah,
It's all
and
identity
AOC
politics.
is like
We
the
need
reason
someone
the
who
left
checks
hates her.
all
The
boxes.
extremists that Wick
And
wants
you
to
have
call
be
out don't
working
like
class.
her.
They can't make too much money. They probably have to be white. They probably have to be a man, right? No. Come on.
I don't think anyone's saying that.
Right?
Well,
There's
I mean, let's get that
identity
fucking guy who
politics,
announces
identity.
basketball. I can't
You
fucking
need to
remember his
kill
name.
that.
I
but
mean,
let's
it
get
is
some
part
guy.
of that.
Stephen
I do
Smith
think
or A.
I don't
Smith?
think it's
Yeah,
all
I don't watch
identity, but I do think.
basketball.
I mean, when Trump
FD, did you consider the new HH song from Kanye though? Maybe he's right.
trying to reshape the government unconstitutionally in many facets, I think that running another billionaire against him is kind of leaving just completely ignoring an attack strategy. I understand like JB Pritzker might have a good personality, but no, I like. Here's my problem with it. The reason it stuck with me is remember JB Pritzker speaking at the DNC and getting up there and saying, "Hey Donald, I'm a real billionaire," and I could not stop rolling my eyes.
Yeah, or Bloomberg. Like, look how
mean,
poorly
he-
Bloomberg did, no matter how much
the
money he
fat
dumped
cat
into it.
narrative writes
to add-
itself.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say to add to that, it's already. I feel like the Dems already have like a perception as the party of the rich now. Like
Right.
people, I hear every day it's flipped, kind of thing. And
Academia
That's
is
just-
more how I put it. It's not just the rich; it's the elite. It's everything
The
trickling
elite
down
would
from
be the
college.
thing.
Yeah,
It's
do
a-
you
it's a
guys
different
think that
thing.
Newsom is a good candidate or
Actually,
no?
unironically, the question to me, by the way, was who I'd run. I would run a Waltz type
Mhm.
again. Honestly, I would run them as the main
That's not
ticket,
bad.
not as the
Really?
vice president.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
Well,
Yeah, I would.
Waltz
Oh,
type
I didn't
or,
say I said a
or
Waltz
him?
type. I didn't say Waltz. I said a Waltz
Oh,
type.
Fair
I
enough.
think
okay.
that the pathway they were going with Waltz was good. I don't know if he's the final draft though.
Yeah. I don't
Like more
give a-
like folksy.
Hold
Yeah,
on,
I
what,
mean,
what do you
yeah,
mean by
yeah.
the like the
Folksy
the,
might be one
the-
way to put
What
it.
do you mean by like the kind of
weird
like,
is the right
direction
way to
with
put
Waltz?
it.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Dylan? What about the Waltz
Whitmer?
type? Do you mean?
That he has like teeth, right, Dylan? Like the idea that he's going
Well,
to
I-
say, like
well,
he's more
the-
genuine.
part of it
well,
is
let's see what
part of
Dylan
it
says.
is
He's
teeth.
authentic and he
Part of
fights.
it when I grew up, I was raised by like a granddad who castrated pigs on the farm growing up, and then went to Nam at like 17, right? And so if he had an opinion, he was on the couch, he would say it like that guy's a moron, or he would, and the way it would come off was very authentic because it's just the way that he talked as an everyday guy. And when Waltz at the start said, these guys are weird about the weird things that JD Vance and the other people, it came off extremely authentic. It hit well. That it is weird. It is freakish. These guys do have some really strange niche policies that they've expressed on these platforms. And I think that communicated well. And I think that the fact that, and people can laugh at it all they want, they call it unauthentic, but him running around in camo with a shotgun, say, look, I hunt, look, I fish. I do think that was,
Bye, FD. Thanks so much for stopping by.
well, generally enough.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, his job isn't to win the fucking, the Boogaloo Boys. His job is to win the Elmer Fudd type who's like, I like a gun, but I don't necessarily think red flag laws are the worst thing in the world. That's the type of guy that he can win over. Let's not pretend we're going to win over the militiamen.
He needs
And
to win
so,
over the
I'm not
kiss a
saying
man and
Waltz,
drag.
I'm not saying Waltz was
demographic.
perfect in this. What I'm
The sissy
saying is
man
that
and
these are qualities that they obviously thought about when they chose Waltz. And if they keep going in that direction, I think they could run a good main ticket person.
Beer drinking Democrat.
I
is what
hold
said.
on. This is where it comes back to the manufacturer thing, right? And I think you just did the thing, because like when I heard Wall say weird, and then I was like, who? Then I looked into him. I'm like, this is one weird fucker. Just however he moved around, he like creeped me out. I don't know what it is. Like and it's not just my unbiased opinion, like my biased opinion. Something about him, sus, right? And then I see him in these photos of him in the camo and he's hunting, and I'm like, this is the most manufactured shit I've ever seen. Like, if he was like authentically doing that, yeah. But like nobody believes he's out there. And if they do, they believe he's out there with Dick Cheney. Like, and how much hunting is that really? Like, no. I don't know. I didn't buy it. And like maybe that's because I am more like in the hunter variety. But even if they're like the Elmer Fudd type hunter, I feel like a lot of them are gonna be like, yeah, he said weird to get ahead of him. This guy's not really one of us.
The weird
still
wasn't
manufactured.
the weird wasn't. Well, you're marketing to multiple people. The Democrats win
Sure.
off of big tent party politics. The Democrats never win because they particularly won with women or they particularly won with this one group. It's that, well, even though that can help, it's by building a bunch of little tents and making it into one big tent. That's why it's called the Big Tent Party. And so I'm not saying that he needs to like convince every gun owner he's the most authentic
No, I'm
gun
not
owner on the
saying that
planet. He needs to convince them that he's not going to go in their gun shed and take away the 3 rifles they have as a casual gun over. That's what he needs to convince them of. And that I think someone of his ilk could do much better. As when it comes to the weird was supposed to be an attack strategy that can.
Hey, Random Frog, watching YouTube. Thank you for becoming a basic bean for 2 months. Trump double standard. Of course, no one's going to talk about the manufactured Trump going to McDonald's thing. Like that wasn't a total bullshit, but Gibbs won't care.
Out about like fuck, I don't want to get into the old fucking Jesus Christ. I don't want to get I the election was almost a year and a half ago. I can't even remember what it was at the time. What actually initiated the weird attack? I can't remember.
I think
thought
I
it was
JD Vance
honestly-
couch.
the dolphin
It was
fucking,
JD
yeah,
Vance
the Vance couch. Yeah, that was
It was the AP falsely reporting that was in the first copy of his book and then retracting it a week later.
And to be fair, I think the weird thing was to a degree manufactured. Obviously, he had to go through and figure out, hey, what am I allowed to call these people without it being too much for the Democratic Party? There was absolutely a panel discussion about that. I'm sure that happened. But I don't think that means it's not authentic because he did feel that way and it did resonate with a lot of people. And that is actually when they were polling the best, when people thought, oh, what the fuck? We have a non-muzzled change candidate that is now going to come out and say things. And then it's all of a sudden, by the time the VP debate rolls around, it's, oh, actually me and you agree on a lot, JD Vance, and I know I called you the party of weird extremists who's going to take away all our rights, but I think we can find middle ground, and it's fucking sucked. And everyone was like, oh, you're just a status quo like limp dick soy boy, like this isn't great. So
Fetterman's
The
already got
same
those
thing with
credentials.
Shut Up Man. It was exactly the same. It was fucking great.
Fetterman's already got those credentials, though. Not only is he one of the most popular Democrats right now, but he was one of the only Democrats willing to vote on H.R. 2, which was the Republican version of the Senate bill that came out. He was the only Democrat willing to vote for the Laken Riley Act. He reaches across the aisle on a lot of these issues. On top of that, he's a big labor guy, and the South is full of laborers. There's a 2022 Bloomberg study that shows labor voters, a fucking core vote for 1960 Democrats is like voting 3-1 right now for Republicans. If they can peel those back, and Fetterman can do that, he's the right guy.
Honestly,
well,
I feel like if he did actually become popular, negative polarization would like just fucking sweep up, and he would be unable to like do bipartisan shit. It would just be impossible. Like if you become the fucking Democratic nominee, like the country's just so polarized, it doesn't even fucking matter.
Yeah,
Being electable is one thing, but look. Let's say he gets elected by saying I'm the bipartisan guy, and I'm not saying that's impossible, but I'm gonna say it's unlikely. But let's say we can attempt to do that in this environment. Okay, he gets in there. What does he do then in a bipartisan fashion with this political divide? And so it's one thing. I want early Fetterman
exactly,
talking about transformative ideas more. If I could see more from Fetterman that sounds like what got him to beat Mehmet Oz, even though he had a stroke on the campaign trail, and less, I think, choosing on the specific issues on how to differentiate himself from the rest of the Democrats. What I'm hearing right now when it comes to like sticking out on Israel, if I'm to believe that this is him going through some political transformation or like marketing transformation, and it's not his brain decaying as like some of his staff is alleging and through these reports, I have no clue, so I can't say one way or the other. I'm assuming he's trying to say, look at me, I'm not your average Democrat. I can like push against the grain, probably in a way that Wick described and kind of he wanted from, the Democratic Party, to maybe act more like how Fetterman is. But I don't know how that performs in a Democratic primary. And I also don't know if that means he still can deliver those not performative, but those transformative ideas that would get people excited about the Democrats. Because if it's just going to be like, I love Israel and he's going to like fight his like the left, I need to see more of early Fetterman and not more,
Fetterman.
fighting on the internet. Fetterman.
I mean,
I
also,
don't want to give them the attack of like another brain damaged candidate. You know
I
what
was
I mean?
I was going to say that. I was going to say what he said. You said performative, but I think misspeak. But I think that's actually an appropriate word too. If he could come out and be performative and like be competitive in some of these like showings, then I think that would help him quite a bit against his brain is rotting allegations. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I feel like it would get pushed so hard. It is an easy one because it is very.
It's gonna be
public
pushed
record.
no matter what.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like,
use it.
oh, they ran Biden. Well, now they're running another retard.
Right.
Oh,
They did that. They did that though.
Shadow
They literally
Cabal
did that to him.
Shadow
It didn't
Cabal
work.
running it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
that's a good
had a
point.
stroke
The deep
right
fake.
before the primary, and they hid it from the primary voters. So there was a lying allegation involved in it. He still won, and he's still popular. And it's looking like he's probably going to win if he runs for re-election as well. He's one of the most popular Democrats right now. So they did exactly what you said.
The most popular Democrats is very low bar right now, unfortunately.
With this conversation, right, is that we need to have a primary to decide because we are mostly Democrats here, right? Or at least voting for Democrats in general.
Exactly, Illich.
And we
It's because
have,
Oz sucked.
I think, as
It was
this
so out
panel
of
has
touch.
demonstrated,
Oh, it's so coup
remarkably
d'etat is
different
so much more
views on how to
expensive.
move forward. Until that is allowed to have a dialogue and a vote, not a poll, but an actual vote where we can count up and tally them, it's going to be a lot of like, well, I think this, I think that, speculate, speculate, speculate. Again, I think that my advocacy here for a Josh Shapiro type, it doesn't have to be him specifically, but I think it should be him specifically. That might change based on what happens in the next 3 years, the next 4 years. And I think that we need to, one of the things that I'm advocating for today is a principle. And that principle is condemn extremism, police your own, appeal to the other side. Those 3 things.
I want to start. So we're getting close to time here. I want to say one other thing here because you kind of brought up the 2020 whatever election 28. But let's talk about midterms. This is kind of interesting with what Soypill just said with how unpopular the Dems are. How do we see the results of the Dems playing out? Like I mentioned, Trump's pandering his base. I think his base comes out and vote. Is this a situation where the Dems are not going to come out and vote because they're so dissatisfied with their party, or what are y'all thinking here? Or is it a thing where they come out and vote droves and replace people in like primaries and for those? What are y'all's thoughts? Any kind of wild guess?
I think
I'm
that
expecting a blue
unfortunately,
wave personally.
yeah, if I say this is unfortunate because it won't require us to learn any lessons. I think we need to, but I think that the way
Right.
that Trump is governing right now, we could run Biden again and he'd win.
Probably.
That's probably true.
It's just that's how bad Trump is doing.
Trump is still up 12 points on the economy from Biden. So
Bill, what do you think about that? Do you agree with that
It
statement?
doesn't
They
matter.
go to Biden
People
again,
are unsatisfied.
and he would win now.
that's what they're unsatisfied with is his economy. They like his border, especially if you split up border policy and the immigration. Like Fox News does, he has like a 60% border policy right now. It's his immigration that disagrees.
Tyler, I think by November, like tariffs are gonna fuck people so hard that I think you literally could put like Biden's corpse in the chair and they would vote for it. Like it's gonna be
You
really
could run
bad.
President
Yeah, we're gonna
Sunday and
have
I
he'd
saw-
small
win, okay?
businesses that
You
are
could run
absolutely gonna
Hassan
go out of
and
business.
he'd
They
win,
spent their
okay?
life.
70% of the
Bob,
country likes
build it.
tariffs.
No matter what, my
No, we
point here
don't.
is
What?
that no
Mhm.
matter who we put up against Trump, unless things change, unless he reverses course, unless there are some black
I'm
swan
glad we got
event,
to this.
right? Maybe Iran attacks Israel or something, and there's something crazy that happens. It does not matter. Trump's party will fucking lose, and it won't be close.
I love this argument, by the way, guys. The trickle down to own Trump. The Democrat Party was in favor of free trade about 20% before the election. Now they're up to 55% once Trump put tariffs in. Something that Barack Obama did and ran on. Something that most Democrats have done besides Bill Clinton, the new Democrat. Other than that, tariffs were a left-wing policy. I can give you the 10 different instances of Bernie Sanders advocating for them the
What?
exact same way Trump
Are you
or Joe
comparing? Are you
Biden.
comparing
Are
Trump's
you
tariff to
even
like
Half
any
of Bill
other?
Clinton,
Yes,
VP
yes, I am.
Obama, Hillary
Yeah,
Clinton
they
won
did
a hemispheric market.
10% tariff.
Okay, if you're making an argument of scale, that's not what you said. So if you want to shift the goalpost there, then yeah, the scale is bigger, but that's
I
not
don't
what
even
you
know what you're
started with.
responding to.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not word-
I
I
don't
mean,
like.
like-
Obviously, we're talking about Trump tariffs, not the concept of a tariff. I mean, if you can look at like who's more free trade.
Okay,
than
well, if you
Trump
want
as
to
a
break
tariff.
those down, I've
Hold
done
on,
panels on those as well, with 6 different ones we can talk about.
Tyler. Hold on. No, what were you saying? You look like you were trying to get in there.
Who? Me?
I thought Dylan was speaking there.
Oh, fuck.
Before
Okay.
Mike.
Yeah, Dylan's not gotten, my bad. Dylan's not gotten a lot of time.
Did you want to comment there?
Honestly, it was such a mess that it slips my mind. Give me a second.
Man,
No,
be
you're
at
good.
peace, man. Like, just
Yeah.
don't even try.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, yeah, we could go ahead and wrap up here anyway. It's about that time, perfect timing, because I got another panel here in about 20 minutes going to host. So it's gonna be good times here. It's gonna be why are leaders we choose.
Oh,
to
you know what?
select.
I remember what I want to say. This will be
Go
my,
ahead and say
I
it,
mean,
and then
okay. My problem, even if you are okay with tariffs, the rollout of the tariffs, this is the thing that confuses me. If you are the president of the United States, we control about 13 to 16% of China's export. Now, if we were to include our allies, you're talking about 65% of China's export. What he's doing is the problem of many different, I think, egotistical leaders in their position. he's decided to go on a one-man or one-nation crusade, deciding to institute tariffs against all these different countries at the same time. And in many instances, what he's ended up doing is pushing these nations together. The Chinese, the South Koreans, the Japanese, they've released multiple statements about deepening economic cooperation. The European Union is speeding ahead to try to get into place of us in the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the new expanded version that includes Australia and other Asian states in the region. And I think that you run the risk of giving up useful leverage and getting our allies to come along with us and going against those who are actually engaging in unfair trade practices against the United States in order to make this scattershot statement at the start of your tariff policy. I mean, was it really that necessary to tariff Penguin Island or put a 10% tariff on Ukraine for some reason because of one of their trade policies towards us that I'm not familiar with, or the Vietnamese 90% assessed tariff rate that is not in at all relation to their tariff rate because they had an existing tariff rate of 1.1%. So if this was done with a little bit more clarity, so you could show where the American interests lie, and it was done, I think, with more coordination with American allies, we might have actually been able to get more concessions. But I think what we're going to end up finding is that there'll be a few states that probably concede a certain amount up front to avoid the whole crisis. But I think the majority of nation states are not going to make big concessions, and I don't think it's going to be worth it. Not because it was impossible that we could use tariffs effectively, but I think the president might actually poison the word tariff as a potential tool for future presidents through his misuse of them, and that's my fear.
Well, that's one guess, but at the end of the day, we're starting to see a lot of results. We got 40 deals on the table, 18 coming out within the next 2 weeks.
Wait, 40 deals on the table isn't a result. It means you're having a conversation. And that's what you see with this conversation with the Russians. Nothing's signed until it's signed, right?
So, yeah, you're right, but like, so what? It's working towards.
What I mean, so what? I'm saying we don't have a result yet, so we can't judge it.
Yes,
I am making a prediction, and
I'm making a prediction as well. This is also my prediction as well.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Good. Okay. All right. So we got his prediction. Dylan, why don't you go ahead and tell him where to find you, what you do, and we'll just go start closing from there.
You can find me in the general Donetsk area. If you want to find my work, you can find it.
Don't tell them that.
You can find it in.
What's
your
Latin
Dylan Burns
long?
TV on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm releasing a documentary this Saturday, Embedded with Skaval, which are Ukrainian convict units. Basically, they're soldiers from the Ukrainian prison system who have signed contracts for their freedom in exchange for military service. And I talk to them about their experience, the nature of the contracts, what they're going through, finding some of the hardest parts at the front. So people want to go check that out, they can. Also released an article 3 days ago with Offbeat Research, interviewing a deserter from the Ukrainian Armed Forces from the 155, if anybody wants to read that.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. That's cool stuff. Well, I'll definitely check it out. Tyler, go ahead.
Average debate enjoyer. Again, you can check out my citation document. Everything that's blued out is stuff I mostly got to today. There was a lot I didn't get to as well. I tried to address people. I'm going to delete that off the bottom there. But otherwise, I really think like we kind of agreed generally. We disagreed on specifics. Everyone agreed we need to stand up and push away the extremists. It's just we disagree with what the extremists are. I say it started at gender theory. Other people are saying it started with terrorist support for Palestine. So whatever. We're disagreeing on what the bar is. I'm using polling data and other people are using Fifi. So I think that I kind of took the W on that. Otherwise, come check me out. Thanks for the hype train. And Gibbs' panel coming up after this is a lot more fun. Stick around for that shit.
All right. Well, all panels are fun. Thank you so much for being. Nina, go ahead.
My bad. All lives matter, Gibbs.
Okay. I'm on twitch.tv/Nina, Neeina. I know it's spelled weird. Thank you so much for inviting me on this panel. I think that we had a relatively productive conversation, except our boy over here seemed to want to talk about some unrelated shit. But I just to kind of do like a cap on it, I think that we are a lot in agreement on that the messaging needs to get better. We need to work towards that. And I hope we can have more conversations like this in the future, because I actually was really excited for this. And I wasn't really expecting it to be particularly combative, and it wasn't really. But I'd want to do something like this again if you're ever up to it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure this is a convo that we can come back to. I know a lot of people had opinions and have been messaging me since we're going on, so I'm sure it'll be one that we can come back to in the future for sure. I'm sure that everybody's gonna be talking about it going forward. It's a pretty important convo. Shenandoah.
Hi, my name's Chairman Shenandoah. I stream on Twitch, and I'm fucking slowly building up my YouTube. Fucking nice to meet you guys. I was actually really happy to be here. Fucking great company. And I don't know. I'm just gonna restate my point. Media environment's fucked, and Democrat leadership is weak, and I want them to get some fucking balls. And that's it. I mean, fuck it. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
And, yeah, he wants them to be less soy pills. So let's go to soy pill.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I think that this is a huge media narrative. Democrats are playing it way too safe. They think it's still 2016, where if they say a bad no-no word, that they're going to get canceled. And to a degree, it's true because we have people that are going to call them out, but they need to stop being scared of it and start acting more like not Donald Trump's policies, but Donald Trump's media messaging, which is I don't give a shit if one particular person calls me out. I'm going to say what resonates with most people. I'm going to be more authentic. And yeah, I agree. We do need a better primary process. We don't need to insert Kamala Harris 3 months before the election. She was not ready for that, and I don't think it worked very well. Agree with Dylan that we need someone a little more, not so toothless. But that the thing is, as much as I want more healthcare and more progressive policies, it seems to me that we don't necessarily need to be promoting a more Bernie-style campaign. We just need better messaging on those policies, and then we can start talking about whether or not we can pull people over to a Medicare for all. But yeah, we need to address the working class. We need to address healthcare prices. We need to talk about the things that fucking matter. And we're not doing it. Although I will say the DNC has reached out to me and other influencers to try to figure out what the fuck went wrong. So at least they know they fucked up. I'm the Soy Pill. You can find me at the Soy Pill at YouTube. I make video essays.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Mr. Wick.
Wick TV on YouTube, Twitch, Kick. Got some great things coming up. On Monday, I'll be teaming up with Pisco to debate the Misfit Patriot and Sean Farash on whether or not Trump is the greatest threat to the First Amendment, in America at least, that we've seen in a generation. I think he is, and I think I have a very strong case to make. Check us out then. It should be fun. Monday, it'll be later in the night, right? 9 o'clock instead of my normal time. That should be fun. As to the matter at hand,
Not trying to be rude to Wick. I think you've already heard what he's saying. Just so you know, guys, if you're here for the first time, after all these panels, I go into intermission screen, just chat with you guys. I really like engaging with the people that are helping me live the current life I live right now. I really appreciate you guys. And if you have questions, you're welcome to ask questions. If you have money to throw at me, you're welcome to throw money at me. But overall, just like, yeah, if you want to talk about what this debate was, if you just have questions about my videos or my opinions, or you just want to chat real quick, I usually go for 10, 20, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 2 hours because you guys are too interesting. But I'm going to do that after this panel. So stick around.
And